Welcome everyone to the Jinn and Tonic Show, blah, 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 blah. Let's get started. I don't know if any of you guys are into, like, any guilty pleasures in terms of, like, you know, the TV you watch, like you watch TV that you know is junk, but there was an episode of the Jerry Springer Show just recently, like a week or so ago, and it had Hamza Tzortzis and Lawrence Krauss on, and it was the usual, you know, anyway.
You had my attention for a second.
Stop. I think that you've been on top of this issue. Why don't you give us a synopsis of what happened?
Oh, shit. Oh, goodness. Okay. 2 months ago, somebody came to me and said, I think it was Belta, actually, who said to me, okay, look, there's going to be a debate between Hamza and Krauss. I looked at Krauss's itinerary, and it said that he is debating IERA. And I think that we even talked about this. And then I contacted him. I said to him, listen, we need to sit down and talk because I know that you've been talking to Abdul, blah, 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 and you've had this Muslim, but this is different. We need to chat. So he said, okay, let's do it next week. Let's do it next week. And then next week comes, let's do it next week. Next week comes, let's do it next week. And then I said to him, okay, look, you've only got 1 week. You've only got one chance at this. I'm going to help you because otherwise you're going to get washed out. So then eventually we get together, and then we have, like, how long was it? Just over an hour. And I said to him, I made a script, and I said to him, okay, you know these other people, Hamza's different, he doesn't care, he's just there for the effect, he's there for the show, he doesn't give a continental damn about who you are, what you are, he just wants another notch in his Quran, and he just wants this on his CV. So either you're going to go under or you're going to look at this. And I gave him all the things that Hamza normally does. And I said to him, basically what you have, you have 2 options. You either go first and you go and you kill him right from the start and you tell the other people this is what is going to happen and show them that this is going to happen. Or what you do is you take him out of his comfort zone and you get him into a one-on-one discussion. So you don't go and let him go on his 30-minute rant. And then I said to him, this is what he doesn't know, this is what he does know. You can nail him on this, you can nail him on this. And then I gave him the whole spiel. And this is basically what he did. Now, this was on the 9th of March. Now, what has happened is that IERA said, okay, we are going to release the video because everybody was screaming for the video. What happened instead is that they were releasing a snippet or 2 because there was a situation when Hamza asked him, well, you are the atheist, you don't have any moral standards, how do you know that incest is wrong? And then Krauss said something which was very correct. He says, well, I'm not 100% sure that it is. Because actually, if you have brother and sister that use condoms, there's no harm done, there is no genetic deficiency, there's no STD, there's no effect other than morality. I do not recommend it. I think it is wrong for the following reason. Reasons. He gave 2 reasons. One was biological and one was from a society point of view. So he rationalized the whole thing. The other thing that was released is about the segregation, because at the beginning of the debate, Krauss walked out because somebody had told him it would be segregated. So he then went to IERA and said, listen, is this true? Because then we're going to cancel it. Because I said to him, look, if you can cause a scandal and cancel, you're the hero. So he tried that, and they said, no, it's not going to be segregated. And then when he came there, he found out that it was. So he caused a bit of a spiel, walked out, and then twittered Dr. Richard Dawkins. So what happened now is that Dawkins went and twittered that he's disgusted that there is segregation at UCL. Hamza ran after Krauss, Professor, come back. Because he was stood up once by one boy, he didn't want this again. So he went running after him, and they managed to get him back. And then they said, no, everything's sorted out, there's no segregation, everybody can sit where they want. In the meantime, what they didn't tell him is that there were different entrances, one for men and one for ladies, okay? But he wasn't even aware of it. Then the head of his fan club actually twittered and posted on Facebook, and she put a clip of what she was taping on her phone out there and told people what had actually happened there. Anyway, so now we get to the debate, and then Hamza starts his normal story, blah, 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 and the Quran is the most wonderful miracle, inimitable, and all that. Then Krauss says, well, listen, fuck you, I don't care. Oh, sorry. I don't care. We're talking about whether it makes sense, because the title was Islam or Atheism, what makes more sense? So he says, I don't care about morality, I don't care about this, I care only what makes more sense. And then he gave his view on that, and he totally annihilated Hamza. Then, when Hamza started talking, Krauss just went and said, listen, whoa, hang on, why don't we have a discussion, let's talk, let's chat, And Hamza was so taken aback, he couldn't handle it, because he couldn't run his normal routine. Instead, he now had to answer questions directly. So when he said, al-barakatuh, his normal spiel with Arabic, Krauss immediately hooked him and said, well, listen, do you actually speak Arabic? Yeah, of course I speak Arabic. Well, I'm trying. He says, no, I'm not asking whether you're trying, I'm asking whether you are fluent in ancient Arabic. And then in the end, Hamza said, well, no, I'm not.
Well, and then he followed that up by saying, Kayf al-hal, which is like, how you doing? Como esta? So I guess it's because I know como esta usted. I'm fluent,
that's it. I'm
fluent in freaking Spanish, including archaic dead forms of it. But here's that comes right to the core of the problem is he knew 2 words in modern standard Arabic, and the crowd went wild for that. You know, he could not lose in the eyes of the people that he had brought with him. I really wonder how many of them were students, or was it just an open event and general
hype? It was open.
Yeah, so I mean, okay.
Was it in England?
No students there.
Oh, this is
anyway,
important. Was it
so
in
then
England?
what happened
Yes,
is
this was
they carried on in
University College
most
London.
British Muslims, the overwhelming majority of British Muslims are Pakistani or Bangladeshi. They can't speak Arabic, so if he said something,
yeah,
they would just go, "Oh yeah, Arabic." Yeah. So there's, you know.
So then what happened
is,
and he said, okay, what about infinity? You don't understand infinity, because here's infinity. I mean, here's pi, it's infinite, so what is your problem? Then he said, you don't understand science, because this is science, and you don't understand it. So what on earth are you talking about? So he was cornering Hamza more. I mean, Hamza was, the way that you should hear him, he was almost in tears, because in the meantime what had happened is, IERA has not released anything else. The only thing that happened is, I don't know how and who started it. Somebody came to me and said, look, by the way, I've organized this audio track. Why don't you listen to it? And then I passed this on. And then in the meantime, I made the video based on the audio track, because I was scheduled to talk to Krauss again. Because I asked Krauss, okay, listen, can I have you Monday or Tuesday after the debate so that we can issue a interview showing your perspective? So because IERA is going to use their propaganda machine, and to counter that, I would like you on Monday or Tuesday, immediately following, so that we can get this out. And he said, yeah, I'm fine with that. So luckily, I got this audio thing so I could do the video, because Krauss is, he's so unreliable. Because what he did in the beginning, where he said, okay, I'm not going to do this now, let's do it next week, yeah, but now is not good, now I'm in Sweden, now I'm in Italy, now let's do it next week. He never pitched. It's to this date, it has not happened. I just sent him an email now, and I said to him, listen, forget it, never mind, it seems that this is not your focus, not your whatever, in your attention span anymore. I found somebody more reliable, and that is me. And then that is it. So, anyway, so now Hamza is completely, like at the bottom, he's completely devastated, and this carries on and on and on. Then they go to the rebuttal, and Krauss again takes Hamza out and just does a discussion with him. So for 1.5 hours, they're just sitting, sparring. Then Hamza says, yeah, but in your book you say this. And then what is funny is that Krauss said, well, if I say what you are saying in my book, then I was wrong. The audience understands I was wrong, and they go crazy, they applaud, and they howl and whistle and toot. And they didn't understand that he actually said the opposite, that he was making fun of Hamza, who, by the way, made a mistake. He got the wrong page, he got the wrong quote. Now what is happening, he is issuing on another channel, not the IERA channel. This is funny. It's on his private channel. He is now issuing little snippets where he is sitting in front of a microphone. And this reminds me of these initial Big Brother episodes where they go and they cry in front of the microphone. Oh, but she was so mean to me. Now he's doing the same thing. Oh, but Krauss is so mean to me, and he did this. And I said, And he still does not understand the points. He still doesn't understand infinity. He still doesn't know where he misquoted Krauss. He does not understand it. He is intellectually incapable of understanding. He understands that he was badly burned, but he still doesn't know why and how.
Yeah.
Well, this is what's happening. IRA still hasn't released it. I don't know what they are doing. They're saying, well, we're not dragging our feet. It's really coming, but we have to combine 3 camera angles. I think they were going for a propaganda show, taking out everything that looked bad for Hamza, and then they were surprised by the audio thing coming up and everybody reacting to the audio thing, and now they have to redo everything.
Yeah, it shouldn't take this long for them to edit it. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, Hamza, he just keeps using words that he doesn't understand. And, that's not to condescend or be insulting. I mean, quite literally, he will give a little speech on the nuances between deductive and inductive reasoning, and then he'll use examples of his own that prove that he doesn't know what those things are. You know, he's like he's lecturing. He's like, Professor Krauss, I don't think you understand the difference between deductive and inductive reasoning and what an inductive fallacy is. He then goes on to say that the universe could not have begun the way Krauss says it because a mother can't give birth to herself. He's never seen that. And I thought, this is a textbook example of inductive failure. Okay? It's like, well, because human beings can't give birth to themselves, matter, time, you know, energy, space must behave the same way. And then he went through what I call the alleged requisites of William Lane Craig. You know, the thing is, he better hope that his Islamic State never comes into being, because they'll chop off his hand on day one for stealing so many arguments from so many people. He's like, well, the beginning of the universe, the phenomenon or being that caused it had to be eternal, it had to be distinct, it had to have will, it had to be sentient, it had to be powerful, it had to be all-knowing, it had to be able to interface and interact and connect with people, you know, the sentient beings that are part of the creation. And then the only change he made was at the end, to make it distinct from Christianity, he added one, he said, and it must be one, in reference to the Tawhid. And, I mean, it's just so stupid. He doesn't, I mean, Craig's arguments have always been indefensible. You know, the only thing that the first cause needed was a trait that gave it exemption from what we consider normal causality. That's it. It doesn't need to have a mustache. It doesn't have to be purple. It doesn't need to be one. It doesn't have to be all-powerful. None of those things follow. You know, it's ridiculous. But, of course, he doesn't know that. And like I said, the irritating thing about the debate was he had brought so many people who just hooted and hollered and jeered throughout, and it was really quite irritating. And the thing is, that actually has left the impression of a lot of Muslim posters that I've seen. It's like, well, he got a better reaction from the audience, ergo he won, even though what he said was just completely nonsensical. Another thing he said...
There's so many people. I saw somebody today on this stupid video that he brought out. I mean, I've shown that he lied. I've shown that he has no clue. Krauss has diminished him. And now somebody says, Aki, you are the man. I want to be like you.
Yeah, I mean, they got caught up with the cheering. But, I mean, if he says something like... at one point he said that observation and induction are the same thing. Now, and then the crowd went wild. And I thought, if that had been a room of scientists and philosophers, he would have been booed off the stage, because that's just completely wrong. But, you know, he just went up there and, you know, Krauss would say 2 + 2 = 4, and you could hear a pin drop, and then, you know, Hamza would say, no, it's 5, and then the audience would go wild. And it's ridiculous. It's really frustrating. How do you reach people like that, you know?
Yeah, this was frustrating for me.
Yeah, and then
I really thought that this would be
Hamza
the end.
and two of the people who stood up basically said, well, Professor Krauss, I read your book and I didn't understand it, so I'm assuming it's flawed. Someone in the chat said that they thought Krauss and Hamza both did a poor job. I think there's something to be said for that. I mean, Krauss, not a very good tactician. You know, like with the whole incest thing. He was really quite foolish, I think, to answer that question in an honest, nuanced fashion, because by the time he reached that point in the debate, he should have realized that his opponent was not dealing in good faith and was just waiting for a soundbite. You know.
No. He was not thinking. He was not. Yeah, you're right. There was no strategy. He was just reacting. And then when it came to making the points, this is when he started scoring, because then he started nailing him. But it was always a little bit late, and it was not, planned. It was not something I would have said. Let me set this up. Let me, prepare this now, and then go in for the kill, because I can hear that the audience is biased and reacts to sound bites. So let me deliver a couple of heavy sound bites, but doing it cleverly, not the way that he did.
Yeah. The thing is, once Hamza had that instrument in his hand, once he got Krauss to give that answer on incest, he just kept bringing it up again. Anytime Hamza got in trouble, he'd say, well, this from the man who defends incest, this from the man who promotes incest, which of course is not what he said. But again, you should know that someone like a Ray Comfort or a Hamza Tzortzis is always looking for that kind of a dishonest foot in the door. But what was amazing is the other thing is he should have let someone tutor him in basics of the Quran, because if it had been one of us, we would have and he said, well, what makes incest wrong? We would have come back with, you mean incest like in Surah 33, verse 50, where it says clearly that first cousins can marry, that kind of incest? And would Hamza have had any response to that?
No, but I couldn't go to that level.
Why not? What do you mean, what level?
Of the Quran. I told him what Hamza is going to do. I told him that there's a difference between the Quran and there's a secondary level, which is Hadith, and he just needs to stay away from that. I said, don't go into this inimitability discussion, because you're going to lose it. Well, just say to him, you have no evidence, and that is the end of the story, and then point out that the Quran had stupid things like the splitting of the moon and snakes and blah, blah, blah. Those are the things that you can tell him, but don't go into the details now of how the structures of the Quran, the Hadiths are going.
Right, but I mean, but this isn't a structural argument. It says emphatically, these are the women that is permitted for you to marry, free believing women, and then those who your right hand possess, and then it says the daughter of your father's brother, the daughter of your father's sister, the daughters of your mother's brothers and mother sisters. So it explicitly says that first cousin marriage is allowed, and of course it's very
But
common.
I didn't know this was going to come up when I primed him.
Right.
Also, Muhammad married his first cousin Zainab bint Jahsh.
And then married his son-in-law married...
His son-in-law divorced.
Anybody would have known that incest was going to come up, but nobody knew that the topic of incest was even...
This is the point, right? And this is why it isn't... I don't enjoy watching people like Krauss, especially Krauss, because I've watched him debate Umar al-Badr in Australia. And it's the same thing. Umar al-Badr brings up the golden age of Islam, and Krauss lacks the knowledge to be able to say there was no golden age of Islam. You're mischaracterizing the historical period for a political or politico-religious agenda. Yeah. There definitely wasn't a golden age of Islam.
Well, I don't know.
Maybe Greco-Arabic science. So, and he just doesn't have the religious background to be able to say, to be able to respond to these specific issues. You can only do a general rebuttal with logic, and it just isn't as effective to an audience. I mean, obviously, in
and come on, the other thing is that he will not accept it either. He's arrogant, so he will do his own thing. You cannot tell him something. He will say, yeah, but I know all that. I said to him, no, you don't know all that, because this is where it goes. It goes one level down, because if he's going to do that, then you need to do that. You can't do that. Yeah, but that's easy. I said, no, it's not. So, yeah.
Well, but like I said, the number one issue that they hammered both during and after the debate was the whole incest line. But then generations of cousins marrying, the rate of birth defect, including fatal birth defect, just continues to go up. There's this report from Daily Mail. It says of cousin marriages of British Muslims, 1 in 10 of the births of these cousin marriages either dies in infancy or develops a life-threatening disability.
Yes, and in Pakistan, yeah.
Yeah, it says, while British Pakistanis account for 3% of the births in the country, they are responsible for 33% of the children born with genetic defects. So here you have Krauss saying, I'm not for it, but I'm not what, violently against it, or however, he gave a nuanced answer that gave a fatal soundbite. And meanwhile, you have the word of the God of your opponent saying, this is okay. I mean, obviously, immediate relatives are a taboo. And this is the whole crux of the problem, is it's the taboo that's important, not the consequence. You know what I mean? Marrying your sister, taboo. Marrying your first cousin, not a taboo, but if generations do it enough in succession, you're just as likely to have a child whose lungs don't work as if you had brother and sister marrying. So again, this is the core of the problem. Is a lot of some taboos are based off of real things rather than just pure superstition. I'm sure that the taboo against incest came about because people noticed a pattern. But then, now we know better. I think South Korea won't allow second cousins to get married. And then in some places in the States, it's also...
Yeah, there are different rules and laws in different countries.
Yeah. But...
okay, anyway, that's where it is. The best thing, of course, is this guy who ran after him after the debate. Mr. Krauss, oh no, Professor Krauss, I want to ask you a question.
Oh,
what is the difference between inductive and deductive reasoning? I mean, that guy made such a fool of himself. I mean, even Muslims criticized him so much until he took it down.
You see, actually that gave me hope, because you sent me that video, and it was Dawa Man. And yeah, he was unbearable. He kept doing the same thing Ray Comfort does. Is he has the mic and he'll say, "What do you think?" And then the moment the first syllable comes out of his interlocutor's mouth, he pulls it back and just won't. And I was actually had my faith in humanity renewed because there were a lot of believers who were saying to Dawa Man, he's like, "Look, you made a jackass out of yourself. This is an embarrassment to us." And like I said, it kind of restored a little bit the faith that I lost from the debate, because you had so many. I mean, I started to judge collectively based on how the let's face it, the football hooligans that Hamza had brought with the debate, and I thought, well, this is how do you reach people if they just see it as a team sport, But it was refreshing to see that there are believers who can be embarrassed by the bad behavior of the people who represent them. You know what I mean? It's like, good. No matter what our disagreement, at least we can agree that this behavior is not productive.
Well, there's other things who are heavily criticizing now this war between Adnan Rashid and Adam Dean.
It's a fitna. It's a fitna.
This is heavily criticized, that the people that one Muslim is openly criticizing another Muslim. That's unheard of.
Yeah.
It's a brother.
That's like in England. That's the case, or
I don't know where these people are. This is in different places, on different forums, different places. They're heavily criticizing this. They have entire threads only on this Adnan thing.
I'm just saying that it's kind of a normal thing when sheikhs get into confrontations. They usually not very respectful of each other. Calling each other's names by calling each other's mothers' names on television.
Really?
Sometimes happens. Yeah,
well, but see, I think are you talking about like on Egyptian television?
Yeah, and on Arabic television in general.
Yeah.
I mean, all the time you see people swearing at each other and calling each other, like the Shiites and the Muslim too. The Shiites and the Sunnis, I mean.
Yeah.
They really, I mean, we're talking some pretty insulting things on television, international television.
I think that what it really is about is disagreeing, criticizing, or insulting in view or earshot of non-believers. That seems to be the issue. Don't criticize. Don't fight in front of the children. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's heartening when you have middle of the road believers saying, okay, look, sorry about that guy. He's a jackass. He doesn't represent us. Just ignore him. You know what I mean? Because so often it's just so frustrating. You wonder, how can you reach these people? I mean, it's when I honestly expected the audience in that debate to start doing takbir and just drowning out everything. You know, what can you do? How can you reach someone who just covers their ears and shouts, "God is great"?
What I find interesting is that almost every single time a Muslim is debating somebody else, they seem to always have a skewed audience, and this kind of, you know, bullying with the hoot and all that stuff is not. It's not just Hamza either. I mean, it just seems like they always crowd in debates if there's a Muslim debating.
Yeah, and the thing is, I would never do that. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, and they were talking about how I'm way too nice on the show when we have believing guests on. But I mean, I would never, you know, we got 48 people chatting, and probably more viewers if I were to look. I would never mic them all up so that they could cheer and laugh and you know, rain derision on a guest while he was on the show. You know, I do everything I can to make them feel comfortable here, and that's the other thing. I really want to know what they think, because no matter how much I read Bukhari, or no matter how many times I read the Quran, no matter how much I read it, you know, there's knowledge of the lore, and then there's knowledge of what, you know, the actual practiced religious culture is, and the only way you can know that is by asking people to do it, you know, and then asking people of different sects and, you know, Quran-only guys, people from different schools. So I honestly want to know what's going on, what do they think, and I don't just, you know, I try to avoid falling in the trap of telling people what they think, or just shouting them down. I think I shouted down P.Z. Myers and Tom Holland more than I did any of the Muslim guests we've had on.
Okay, so are we still talking about Hamza Tzortzis? Because I have
no, it's done. No, we're finished.
No, go ahead.
All right. Well, I've noticed. Okay, I've been at university, as I do every now and again, and I do Islam-related subjects. And in one of my classes, the lecturer is a certain ethnicity that explains, come to think of it, the kind of Islam we're being talked about. For example, well, I was told, oh, here I was thinking that Muhammad's marriage to Safiya bint Huyay following the conquest of Khaybar and the destruction of her family and the murder of her father and her husband being burnt or tortured to death and then beheaded in order to establish the location of treasure, all the women and children, and all the men being slaughtered, all the women and children being divvied as slaves for most of the strongholds in Khaybar. The others ended up paying the dhimmi tax. Here I was thinking that all that was for Muhammad's revenge, you know, and for Muhammad's imperial expansion and to gain more properties, because Muhammad became very rich from Khaybar. So much for him dying poor, as we're all told. He actually had a lot of property, which, by the way, Abu Bakr and Fatima fought over after he died. So he clearly had it up until his death. Anyway, so here I was thinking that, you know, this was... And then when he took Safiya bint Huyay as his wife, you know, that was because she was really hot. And people were talking about, oh, yeah, she's really hot. And so Muhammad took her as his own. Now, that story makes sense. But no, apparently what actually happened was Muhammad married Safiya bint Huyay to stop anti-Jewish bigotry.
What? Was she...
There you go. There you go, guys. That's what actually happened. What about Yeah, she was Jewish. That's, you know, the Khaybar Jews, very famous.
Oh.
I mean, you know, Ibn Sa'd.
Do you think that there? I can just imagine if you. I think that there are a lot of Muslims today. If you're like, well, your prophet married a Jew, they just about take a swing at you.
Well, and the thing is, though, that
I mean, he also had this Maria, this Coptic Christian.
Well, yeah, but you know how it is these days. You know what I mean?
He was not choosing. I mean, come on, he took anything that came along.
Yeah, so he raped. He raped.
It had upwards of 2 legs. He jumped on it.
So someone in the chat said, so he raped a Jewish woman to stop anti-Jewish bigotry.
Yeah, pretty much.
That was very noble.
Really,
I mean, there are a lot of stories that Muhammad was very noble, and he married all the women that he married purely for social reasons.
Yeah, that's another one. He married all of his wives for, you know, political reasons. Like, yeah, of course he did. No, but the thing with Safiya, I better clarify, is that after Muhammad acquired her, like immediately that evening or one of the almost either it was the day that he killed her husband, or one of the days immediately following it. It was at Khaybar, and he consummated his marriage with her. And one of his followers was so concerned that she would try and kill him that this follower stood guard outside Muhammad's tent the night that Muhammad consummated his marriage with her. Clearly he raped her. Clearly she was not happy marrying him because he had just, I don't know, tortured to death her husband and just killed all her family and destroyed her home. Yeah. And thinking about the anti-Jewish bigotry, following a while later, she actually ended up converting to Islam, according to Islamic tradition. I don't know if that's true or what her motivation was, but it certainly doesn't change what happened when she was married to Muhammad initially. But in any case, she, the Aisha bint Abu Bakr and someone else, maybe Hafsa, I can't remember, would make fun of Safiya for being a Jew. And Muhammad's response to this was, when Muhammad overheard this conversation, Aisha was calling Safiya a Jew, and then Safiya would say, well, screw your dad, or something like that. And what was Muhammad's response to this? Did he go in and say, anti-Jewish bigotry is wrong, you shouldn't make fun of someone simply for their, inborn biological ethnicity? No. Don't you dare talk about Abu Bakr like that. He's a good man of mine. And that's it. No. I mean,
it's like a real cat fight.
But the thing is, anyway, so this is one example of what I've been taught at uni by this lecturer, is that Muhammad married Safiya bint Huyay to stop anti-Jewish bigotry. Great one! What else did Muhammad do? Oh yeah,
Did you say anything?
It was the middle of the lecture. I didn't want to interrupt and be that.
But it did. Didn't it stop the anti-Jewish bigotry? I mean, Muhammad was never. He was never killed by a Jew, was he?
Yeah, I think that was the last time they ever killed any Jews, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the second caliph kicked them all out of the peninsula.
Yeah, job well done, I say.
Yeah.
No, but seriously, I mean, he also kicked all the Christians out. Actually, he didn't, by the way. But that's what Islamic tradition says he did. Anyway, another thing that my lecturer has told me is that everyone listened to the farewell sermon, and then we all, hold on, let me actually get his version of it, because this is so hilarious.
The what?
The final sermon.
Okay. What, in Medina, or what, before he died, or what?
No, when Muhammad was on his, nearly dead, or just before his death, he got up and he did a farewell sermon. Now, obviously, he didn't actually give a farewell sermon. This was just Sunni Islam, or Sunni traditionalists' excuse to basically summarize what they thought were Muhammad's essential teachings into one hadith, so that they could have one hadith in the hadith collections that would unify or synthesize Muhammad's message. This is what is most likely, because, anyway, but allegedly this is what Muhammad said. And it's, he's like, Muhammad's like, yeah, this is a sacred month, obey Allah, don't do usury,
don't marry any of my wives,
watch out for
God walking from beyond the grave.
Yeah, goddamn.
But is this story with the sheep really something that people take seriously?
Oh, it's in the Quran. It's in the Quran. It says, don't fuck any of Muhammad's wives after he's dead.
No, sorry, about the sheep, the way that he died. No, that is in the Quran. You're not allowed to look at Muhammad's wives. You're not allowed to marry. Even today, you're not allowed to marry any of Muhammad's wives. I mean,
you're missing the point. Right?
You can look at Muhammad's wives. Because he first sucked on one of her relatives' tits.
Yeah, that's true. That's why Aisha would get Asma to get everyone to suck on her tits, and then she could just go and be in the same tent as them. That's not a joke, by the way. That is an Islamic tradition. Aisha would get full-grown men to go and suckle on Asma, and then they could be in the same tent as Aisha.
No way.
And they could act plans. No, that's true.
Be in the same tent as Aisha alone. This is fucking hilarious.
Anyway, seriously, how it sounds like a joke, doesn't it?
Now, is this before or after Muhammad died?
I think it was after Muhammad died.
Supposedly before, because she justifies it with a hadith where they were somewhere and Muhammad tells a man to suck on her tits. No, he tells her to breastfeed him, and she says, "How do I breastfeed him, Ya Rasulullah?" And then he explains to her. he shows her how she should breastfeed him. And yeah, very awkward situation.
Yeah, I'd say.
I don't know which collection this is though. I'm going off the.
I can show
Arabic
it for you. If you want.
Okay,
I was
but
talking
now,
Arabic
to come back
speaking.
to my original question, is the story is the story
Yes.
with the sheep authentic?
Do you mean when the Jewish lady tried to feed Muhammad some
Yes.
poisoned mutton? Yeah, well, I don't think it actually happened, but
The
sure.
Ahadith
Yeah,
are
of
just
course
a
not.
bottomless
It's-
pit
it's-
of
it-
weird.
it's testified in Islamic tradition,
Thank
and
you.
supposedly by some traditions this is by extension what killed Muhammad. Although I don't know which traditions say that. I've just heard. Anyway, that's not the point. I want to get to, there's a point I'm making here because my lecturer then quotes the farewell sermon and it says here, "Oh people, it is true that you have certain rights with regard to your women, but they have rights over you. Remember that you have taken them as your wives only under Allah's trust and His permission. If they abide by your right, then to them belongs the right to be fed and clothed and kind of note there. If they obey, if they fulfill your rights, then they have rights. So women's rights are prerequisite upon them obeying men's rights. But whatever. They have the right to be fed and clothed in kindness. Do treat your women well and be kind to them, for they are your partners and committed helpers. And it is your right hand, blah 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 blah. It is your right hand that they do not make friends with. It is your right that they do not make friends with any of whom you do not approve, as well as never to be unchaste." Oh, cool, that's nice. Oh, wait. This version of the farewell sermon is not found in any of the canonical hadith collections, because this version is a little different. There's 2 lines missing from it. 2 crucial lines. Now, there are several versions of the farewell sermon in Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abu Dawud, Sunan Ibn Majah, At-Tabari's Tarikh, and Ibn Hisham's Sirah. Right, and the one from Muslim, so most of them mention a certain term, awan, but Muslim and Abu Dawud don't mention it, so I'm just going to pretend, maybe he got this hadith from Sahih Muslim and Sunan Abu Dawud. Okay, I'll let him off for not having that line in it. But every single version of the farewell sermon has a line in it that this one in my book, my textbook here, this one that my lecturer got us all to read out in class, does not have. Oh, well maybe it's just a mistake. No. When you know what the line is, someone has deliberately cut out this line from this text, and we are now being taught at university a fake hadith, an interpolated hadith. So what is that line, I hear you ask? Well, it's actually a line from the Quran. And the line is, وَأَذْرِبُهُنَّ. Does anyone know what وَأَذْرِبُهُنَّ means?
No,
Ali?
tell us.
I'm sorry, I was not paying attention. Can you please?
And do something to them.
Yes, and do something to them. Idrib.
Idribuhun?
What is idrib?
You said,
Idribuhunna?
it sounded like you said Izribuhuna. Did you say Idribuhuna?
Drabahun.
Idribuhunna.
Is that what
It
you're-
means and beat them.
And hit them, yeah.
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 You said it sounded like you're saying
So, you know-
Izdribuhuna, and I thought I'd never.
In Arabic, in English transliteration, it's a D with a dot underneath it. So it's not D. It's like it's slightly different, and so it's almost like a the or z to my Vulgate tongue. So it's a little hard to pronounce, but you get what I'm saying here. Wa idribuhunna, which is and beat them. So if basically
When
every
did I
single
learn this
version
fucking
of
language?
these goddamn-
I've been studying Chinese like really hard, and then I've learned this language by accident, just by looking up these bogus fucking claims. Why do I speak Arabic? I had no intention at all of learning this. Okay? Jesus Christ. I don't
point
want
is
to understand.
that
No, I'm just
It's
kidding.
a fake hadith.
Ali and I
And-
have talked about this. I actually think that Arabic is a pretty cool language, just as a language, just because of its features. But I'm just saying, like, when did I learn that? You know what I mean? It's like you look up the same claims over and over. I'm sorry, Klingschor.
Anyway, basically, the point is that we're being taught a fake hadith here. Hadith which lacks the line, and if women commit fahisha, or if women disobey, wa'adribuhunna, and beat them. So, this is another example. So, oh yeah, Muhammad married a Jew to prevent anti-Jewish bigotry. Oh yeah, farewell sermon, but with the beating part knocked out. And so much other stuff like this. Yes, Islam is environmentalist.
Does it have the part where it says treat...
And what I realized is...
Does it have the part where it says treat them like domestic animals?
No.
He took that part out too?
Muhammad said... Oh, no, he did take that part out. But see, that part is not in Sahih Muslim Sunan Abu Dawud's version.
That's in what...
So is
that Ibn Ishaq or something?
The term awan, which can mean either prisoner, captive, or domestic animal, is in Tabari's one, Ibn Hisham's one, and Ibn Majah's one. Okay. But it's not in Abu Dawud or Muslim. Okay. But wa'idribuhunna is in all of them. So that's why, obviously, this has been interpolated. Anyway, what I've realized is...
Sorry, I have to interrupt again. Sorry, I'm sorry. I'll let you get through this. But it's like so many movies have these, these scenes where, like Yoda is dying, and he's like, and they always have the profound words, and they make amends, and they tell him about as they croak out their last breath. And I can just imagine, the old sage-like character of movie dying. And one last thing. What is it? What is it, teacher? Don't forget to beat your wives. And then he just drops dead. I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck? That's the last thing. That's the last thing you're gonna say before you just keel over. It's like, don't forget to beat your wives. When 900 years old you are, look so good you will not.
Oh God, that was definitely what happened to Muhammad. Although, yeah. Although this was a little while before he died, like a few days or months.
Okay.
I can't remember.
All right. Yep.
But he was ill at that time, I think. Anyway, the point is that I've suddenly realized what is going on. It finally hit me. Like, I was really thinking about it, and at first I was like, I've refined it. This is what is going on, right? The best way to look at it is this, and I made a tweet about it because I'm cool like that. And so I'm just going to read my tweet because, it was eloquent. My apologetical Muslim lecturer is not teaching us about historical Islam. Instead, we are being fed 20th century Turkish revised Islam. And that is it in a nutshell. And that is what most Muslims these days, or at least most Western Muslims, are espousing. And this is why Muhammad is now not a child molester. This is why Muhammad is not an aggressor who attacked people out of the blue. Instead, he was always in defense. This is why Muhammad was, like, pretty cool with women's rights and stuff, because it's Turkish revised Islam, 20th century Turkish revised Islam. That's what we're looking at here, because this is westernized Islam. This is Islam with European values, or 20th century European values, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. He's not. I mean, the whole thing about the Aisha thing, I've said in the past that I avoided, but I mean, it's an open and shut case. You have Bukhari and Muslim both saying married at 6, and then moved in. Wait, arranged the ceremony was done at 6, and then she was 8 by our solar calendar and 9 by their lunar calendar. Okay, so according to us, she, for the record, she was 8 and 9 months according to the Gregorian-based calendar we use today, right? And then in in Abu Dawud, she actually, because there are some, I've had some believers say, oh well, but you can't prove that maybe they just moved in together and they were just shacked up. But then but Aisha specifically says in Abu Dawud that they had sex. So.
No, it's explicit in all of them. It says that she consummated the marriage, which implies, I mean, it implies sex. And then they moved in together, like, and then she would live with Muhammad now.
Abu Dawud specifically, explicitly says that they had sex. No doubt. There's no window dressing. There's no allusion to it. They specifically say, and it is a Sahih hadith.
Yeah. Well, it's actually this the story of Aisha being married to Muhammad at the age, consummated by Muhammad at the age of 9, is actually mentioned. Like, it's insane how many hadiths there actually are. Like, I was surprised. I made a mistake. I undercounted. There are actually give me a moment, and I'll give you a full list of just how many goddamn hadiths there are about this, because it goes well into other collections. Hold on, resources. Why?
Can I ask
Alright.
a question in the meantime?
Sure. Although I've got it right here.
Because while we're talking about Turkish revision and so on, I'm being inundated again by claims that Musiyun from 5147 means expanded, and the universe actually did expand. Now, I've got millions and millions and millions of testimonies saying, no, it does not. But I don't know, is it really an adverb or an action word that can be taken as a verb?
Are you talking to me right now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the question was the word al-musi'un.
Yeah.
Or la-musi'un, which is the word that's used in the thing, is either an adverb or what else?
Is it, well, somebody said to me it's an action verb that can be used to describe an action, which is that he is actively expanding it.
Okay, so I mean, I guess you could use it in a context that would make it that, but the context in that surah is not that context. So you could, in a way, make it so that you're saying that we are doing this right now, but that's not the context that's in this specific ayah.
Yeah.
Which
so
means
there is
continuously expanding it.
Well, it would mean that we are doing so right now. So if you you know, somebody called you, you could technically say, well, I've built this thing and now I'm making it bigger, or inni la musa'un. But here, again, you would have to be very explicit as to what it is you're talking about, doing something right now. So you've just said we've finished something and now we're doing so, and it would be quite clear in the context of that meaning of the word, turning it into a verb that is continuous. But that is not the context that's in the surah itself, and this is not my opinion. This is the opinion of, you know, Ibn Kathir and all these other people who have looked at it. So yes, there is a context in which you could say that to mean that, but that's not the context we're talking about here.
Okay, but I think it's difficult to argue from what I hear now.
Well, okay, the equivalent item of speech in English would be a verb that is you add ing to the end and use it for various reasons. Sometimes as a noun, sometimes as an adverb, and various things. But of course, there's not a one-to-one correspondence between how an active participle functions in English and in Arabic. But the bottom line is there is the verb of that sentence is earlier, and it's the verb created, and that is definitely in the past perfective. So there's no doubt that that argument is completely false.
Right. In order for you to go from having just done something, you would then have to change the time period, yeah, if you were going to start talking about being continuously done.
Yeah. So,
but
yeah,
that doesn't happen in that sentence. He doesn't say, I did this and now I'm doing this. He just says, I did this and we made it big, or we made it bigger. And so it would be very clear if that's what was being done at the time, because you would have to give the time periods explicitly in that context in order for it to be taken in that way.
Okay.
Certainly, you'd expect that from a book that's supposed to be the answer to everything. and again, and it's not just me who thinks that that's what it means, because if you were just talking to regular people, you would have to explicitly make out the fact that this was being done, and now this is being done continuously.
Yeah. So yeah, the original verb creating would itself be in the progressive, and yeah, it's just wrong. I mean, the people make up rules as they go along. You know, I mean, the thing is, it's just such a bad book. It's just such. I mean, when you read it like when you read in English, you'll see pieces in brackets, right? And like many people, I just assume, okay, well, it must be something that's implied, kind of baked into a native terms in the original language that they feel like they have to clarify, right? But then you read in Arabic and you realize those parts are just missing, and there are pieces missing from verses that are required to make those sentences grammatically correct, or context that's absolutely required to know what the hell they're talking about. In some cases, like at the end of Surah of the Ants, I was reading it the other day, and at the end of Surah of the Ants, 2791, Muhammad drops his ventriloquism act for 2 verses. Then he remembers his mistake and he picks it up again. He starts to speak as himself and says, I have only been commanded to follow the Lord, etc., etc. But he forgets to use the device that he usually uses when he has something to say, and that is he'll have God say, cool, say, first person male imperative. He'll forget to tell God to tell him to say what he has to say. So he forgets to do that, and then he speaks in his own voice, even though it's supposed to be, Allah speaking. But it can't be Allah speaking in that verse, because otherwise it would say, instead of saying, I've been commanded to follow the Lord, it would be, I have been commanded to follow myself. Well, who could command him to follow himself? Himself? It makes absolutely no sense. So it's just the ventriloquist act that he briefly drops, and then 2 verses later, he remembers his mistake, and then says, okay, cool, tell them. But that made it into the final version of the Quran, of him, failing to drink a glass of water while his Allah puppet was talking. And I thought, these kind of amateurish mistakes made it into the current edition of the Quran, and they still think it's divinely inspired and protected and so forth. It's just amazing. And then
actually,
Hamza, I'm sorry, Hamza's little dissertation on the linguistic miracle. The Quran broke all the existing patterns and rules and the boundaries of the Arabic language at the time and so forth. I mean, that's so frustrating. How do you get through to people that there's no such thing as a linguistic miracle, and if there was, this isn't it?
Don't know, with sledgehammers. But an interesting thing about mistakes in the Quran is that an academic by the name, well, it's published in an academic paper anyway, in the Journal of the American Oriental Society, James Bellamy has published 2 papers or articles about proposed emendations to the text of the Quran, and he goes through and he demonstrates what appear to be clear scribal, linguistic, grammatical errors in the Quran.
Yeah.
Words that make no sense. For example, what does he say? I mean, and it's also published in some academic works, like a edited work containing numerous articles by, was it James Montgomery, I think. Anyway, and so he just goes through it and he gives, like for example, he says that Baka is actually Makkah in the Quran, and that it was just a scribal error. And what did he say precisely? It was something along the lines of they screwed up. They misted a meme for a ba, or something like that, and that's why it's Makkah. What is it? Be Bakatu instead of Be Makatu, or something like that. Just little things, and he goes to, and here's an academic who's actually going through and done an analysis of a whole heap of linguistic errors or Arabic errors in the Quran. Really fascinating stuff.
Anyway,
hey, do you know any place that has the entirety of Sahih Muslim without any of the books omitted?
yeah, I think
this is weird.
I have a lot of links to different versions of.
Speaking of hadith collections, going back to how many hadith collections mention that Aisha bint Abu Bakr was 9 years old at the time when she was married to Muhammad, and they also have like they have the whole thing of, you know, oh, she was playing on a swing, and oh, when she moved in with him, she took her dolls with her, and oh, after they were married, she continued to play with dolls with her friends, and they'd run away when Muhammad came. Anyway, Al-Bukhari, there are 4 hadiths in Al-Bukhari, recorded by Al-Bukhari, 3 hadiths recorded by Muslim, 3 hadiths recorded by Abu Dawood, 6 hadiths recorded by An-Nasai, 2 hadiths recorded by Ibn Majah, 1 hadith recorded by Ibn Hisham, 3 hadiths recorded by At-Tabari, and 5 hadiths recorded by Ibn Sa'd. That's a lot of hadiths.
Yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of
Do you have that list somewhere? Is that available?
Well, I'm in the process right now. Oh, spoiler alert, guys. I'm making a website. And although I'm not going to tell you the link or anything yet, because I want to finish it before we make it public. But I'm in the process of gathering together materials like this so that you will have available every single hadith that mentions this in every single collection with either links or, preferably, academic references to the translation from which it's derived.
So it will be ready tomorrow?
So, probably not tomorrow, but there will be a list available for you and for anyone who wants it. I mean, it really annoyed me because you know the site Wiki Islam, that really the anti-Muslim wiki, which is really poor quality, and they often forget to source stuff, or they'll have Christian propaganda in there of the worst kind. Yeah. Another thing that bugs me is how crap their research is. I mean, when it comes to Aisha, they're missing most of the hadiths from An-Nasai. They're missing all the hadiths from Ibn Sa'd. They're just sloppy. And so, my website will not be like that. It will have all, you know, much better research involved, better sourcing, and no goddamn Christian propaganda.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's always funny. It's like half the websites with Islam in the name. It's like here's a hadith, and sometimes it's legit. Sometimes it's just an urban legend that they're passing. But then it's like Jesus died, so you didn't have to listen to this bullshit. You had to listen. I'm like, okay, thanks anyway. But yeah, the thing that has always made me rage is the whole linguistic miracle thing, and this was something that during the Krauss debate was brought up again and again, like it was this silver bullet, and it's just painful. You know, there's no combination of words, and there's no style that is magical, that can't be achieved by a bunch of chimpanzees on typewriters eventually. You know what I mean? And Krauss even said, he said, I entered some Arabic words and it just randomly generated verses that were found in the Quran. You know, but this is so frustrating because not only, I mean, I understand that not everyone's necessarily, I mean, a lot of people who don't study linguistics think it's this very arcane subject, which it really isn't. But, you know, it lends, you know, religions use this to lend this air of mystery to their writings. But, you know, the thing is, he's saying, okay, well, it defied the conventions of Arabic and so forth at the time. That's not really true. If you look at the Quran, it mixes and matches pre-existing styles in kind of a Frankenstein monster of styles. But even if it was a unique and new style, it doesn't make it magical. You know, I mean, like the haiku format is 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables. If someone did a poem that was 5, 7, and 4, I don't think people would just fall down on their faces and think it was miraculous just because it was
definitely
convention.
Miraculous.
I mean, did Cubism, you know, broke convention, you know, just because it broke convention doesn't mean it's magical. You know, any kind of new style of art, poetry, any kind of, it's just absurd. It's just absurd right on its face, and I'm amazed that everyone can't see that. And I'm pretty sure that if you took a book written in Chinese and you said, okay, well, look, and you went to a believer and said, okay, well, look at this book. You know, do you read Chinese? You're in no position. This defies all the conventions of Chinese. They would immediately see the logical flaw if it was a dogma other than their own. What were you going to say, Clint?
Well, I like to muck around, and I've got a little children's book called The Story of Little Black Sambo. And it is like really simple, silly little children's book. And I like to argue that is inimitable. And I can use the same kind of arguments that they use. And oh, look, the text is self-aware. Even the title is the perfect minimum amount of words to convey the maximum amount of eloquence. Because it could have said, Little Black Sambo's story, but that's not as eloquent as the story of Little Black Sambo. You know, it's a perfect combination, and even within it, it tells you it's descriptive, the story. It tells you it's a narrative. The title actually encapsulates the contents perfectly. It's self-aware, it's self-reflective. Like, what a crock. That is the exact same kind of shit they say.
Yeah.
And it just frustrates me. It's sophistry. It is pure sophistry. The entire Ijaz al-Quran is sophistry that was invented in the 10th goddamn century by Muslim linguists in response to it was a polemical device that they developed in response to Christian Arab criticisms of the Quran, and the Christian Arabs were going, look at the text. It's so sloppy. Look how it jumps about. Look at the thematic incoherence. What a joke. The Muslims are like, oh no, the incoherence is positive rhetorical devices.
Yeah, it's that you can't comprehend the brilliance of this otherworldly speech. Well, you said about the minimum number of words, okay? I hear this all the time. Muslims will be the first to tell you, oh, well, they use so few words, and they do. Depending on what you consider a distinct word and not just a variation of a word. In other words, if you say, I run, you run, but he, she, or it runs, we don't consider those two distinct words. By the same token, if you go by that standard with Arabic, the Quran has about 2,000 or less distinct words. It has less distinct Arabic words because it has a fair amount of loan words, right? Well, if there are any believers who listen to this, I recommend turning it off at this point because I know you're going to be mad, okay? But I have to say it. Coco, the sign language using gorilla, knew 2,000 words in sign language. Now they have at a research institute...
Wait, so you weren't kidding when you said chimps could get this with a typewriter?
At a research institute where they teach simians language, they have a top student, Bonobo Monkey, who has learned over 3,000 distinct words in English. That ape knows more words in English than your prophet knew in Arabic. And you're going to tell me that the book he wrote is a miracle? So what?
No, that ape, his name's Kanzi.
Yeah, you heard this? Yeah.
It's got a name. Don't call it that ape. It's not some god you can just...
Yeah, it is amazing. But let me... I cannot... Please. Ali sent this link with the Aisha thing. And one thing it says there is, because she was commanded to let the guy suck on her boobs, so she says, well, he said suckle him, and it would remove the expression of disgust on his face. And she says, I did that, and by Allah, I did not see any sign of disgust on the face of Abu Hanifa when I was fucking him.
Wow.
I mean, what? I'm sorry.
This
I'm a dirty old man. I would
sexual morality. Look, here's what. So
Muslim.
Yeah, this is Sahih Muslim. Aisha then uses that hadith to, again, like I said, have adult men suck on her, I think, sister's tit, so she could be with them alone. Right, and this.
Hey, Atheismo, do you want a bigger cup?
No.
let me just drink out of this cistern over here.
This is vodka.
That's a load of
water,
I mean, look at the hypocrisy of the whole thing when they have this 1-hour marriage just so that they can use prostitutes.
Well, that's the thing is when it's all down to it's about taboos and avoiding taboos. And the crazy thing about it is, of course, it says that the God that watches everything is so callow, so let's face it, dumb, that he's fooled by that. You know what I mean? It's the idea, like, are you guys familiar with Islamic banking and how that works?
Yeah.
It's like a pachinko parlor.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Yeah, it's a pachinko parlor. It is, for all intents and purposes, the exact same transaction. They just add a third party so that it looks like you're trading between the three parties and just taking a loss. But you still lose money when you take this, what is a loan, and you still pay penalties if you don't pay it back on time, comparable or sometimes higher than what you would pay a normal bank. And what the people who do this Islamic banking, they think that God is too stupid to see what's going on. You know what I mean? It's like if I believed in an all-knowing being and I tried to hide money in the Caymans and said, okay, I'm going to hide that before I make the deduction for my zakah or whatever. It's ridiculous. But they think like with the 1-hour marriages and the Islamic banking things that this all-knowing being who is infinitely wise doesn't see what's going on.
No, of course not. This is the story of our neighbor who stole some whiskey from us, and then when my father got it back, he said, but you're a Muslim, you're not allowed to drink whiskey. He says, no, but I pulled the curtains, then Allah can't see me.
No, that's not a true story. Fuck
this
off.
This is a true story.
Fuck off. Don't talk shit.
Story.
That's not a true story. Get
no,
out
no,
of here.
this is a true story.
No.
Can I just make a point?
It isn't. No. Come on. That didn't
He
happen.
told me that story.
No, it
That
happened
didn't
to
happen.
us. Because we used
Stop
to
spamming.
still get the stuff from the duty-free shop.
No,
That
it
never
did happen. It
Nobody.
did happen because he told me that story ages ago. And so, what's this? He's got a lie that he tells everyone? No. I think it's a true story.
No. Not a reliable isnad. Not a true I'm sorry, no. I don't believe it. Bollocks.
What do I do now?
Well,
Do I get my father on the line here and complete the isnad now, or what?
No way. No way did somebody say that. No way did somebody
That's what he
say
said.
No.
That's what
No. He okay,
I'm sorry, Atheismo, but your argument from incredulity is a logical fallacy.
If he said it, he was joking. Okay? He thought it was something else. He didn't mean it. No.
Okay, so
What
why
country
would
was
a
this?
Muslim steal an entire case of whiskey in the first place?
A true Muslim would never steal.
Number one. Number two, would he steal whiskey? He wouldn't touch it.
He can't read the label. He thought it was something else.
Milk.
Mouthwash.
Yeah.
Zamzam water. He thought it was Zamzam water.
And then
when he was drinking it,
Let Ali come in because
I wanted to make a point before we get lost too far. I just wanted to point out the fact that does it make sense that women can't be alone with men in a room by themselves with the door closed unless that adult male sucks on the sister's tit, right? Does that seem
or her tit? I mean, if I was in a room alone and I was sucking some girl's tits, to be honest, usually well, I'll leave it up to your imagination.
No.
Well, that's even worse because look, I can't be in a room until I suck your tit first. I mean, Jesus Christ!
How? Yeah.
What?
How?
I remember this guy from the aeroplane who said, "I cannot be served by a stewardess who is traveling on her own. The stewardess needs to have a male companion, otherwise she's not allowed to be a stewardess on the plane." He should have sucked her boobs.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, that guy threw a fit. The flight was, delayed or canceled or something?
Yeah, everybody on a plane with a Muslim woman should have to suck on her tit before they walk on the plane. Or I guess, I don't know.
You guys are ridiculous.
This sounds like, the guy who this new rule. Okay.
New rule. Well, I'm just going to say that the next time a Muslim woman tells me, "Oh, you can't come in here because I'm by myself," I could say, "Well, just let me suck on your tit, and I can be in here, with, and it wouldn't be a problem."
And if she turns you down, it's like, okay, can I have your sister's number?
I'll settle for your sister. I mean,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that is fun.
I mean, that's.
Now, I want to bring up something completely different. Now for something completely different.
Oh, what is it?
Because I've been noticing, and recently I've become aware of an interesting phenomenon. And it's obviously been going on for the last 30 years or whatever, or so. But I've only it's funny how when you're aware of something, it can take a while for your understanding of to kind of solidify in your mind until you understand what you're looking at, like the focus, And so I've finally figured out what it is that I'm looking at. And I think that most Muslims I've ever talked to exhibit this to a greater or lesser degree. But it seems to me that there is present among Muslims of the world, particularly Muslims who interact with, on the internet or who have a connection to the wider world, there seems to be an Islamo-nationalism present amongst Muslims. and it's exactly the same as like Armenian nationalism or Turkish nationalism or any other nationalism, except it's based upon, you know, you being a Muslim instead of you being a particular ethnic group. Yeah, I mean, religious nationalism has appeared before. I mean, Zionism is probably the most famous example of a religious nationalism. I mean, yeah, you know, the early Zionists were mostly secular, but I mean, Judaism, Jew is mostly meaning a religious demographic. So, you know, anyway, but that doesn't matter. However you twist it. So, like, and I thought this was really fascinating. And like, when you look at ordinary nationalism, what is nationalism? Well, I've written down here to define it. Nationalism is the political ideology of any self-identified demographic seeking to establish national autonomy. This demographic will usually see itself as being victimized by oppressors of some kind, at whose expense aspirant nation of the demographic must be established. The demographic will frequently legitimize their aspirant nation by appealing to a romanticized past or historical heritage when the demographic in question were united or flourished under some historical empire or golden age. If only all of the demographic could be united into a single nation once again, it is typically argued, said demographic would experience a cultural renaissance and recreate their glorious past. Right, and so you can see this with like all the other ethnic nationalisms. So let's take a group like, I don't know, Turkish nationalism, right? So no, that's a bad example because they've got their nationality now. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
what's a famous example of nationalism in the world at the moment?
Take Iranians.
Ethnic nationalism.
They take great pride in that.
Oh, Tibet. Okay,
Argentina?
So let's take the Tibetans, okay? So the Tibetans are a self-identified demographic. The Tibetans, living in a set geographic area, who are being oppressed or see themselves, I mean, they are being oppressed, but who see themselves being oppressed. Now, the Tibetan nation needs to be established at the expense of the Chinese territory because it will be taken out of what is now currently China. And the Tibetans appeal to the past kingdom empires of Tibet when the Tibet was an autonomous state to legitimize their future goal. And if only Tibet can be free, you know, we'll have our glorious golden, great, awesome Buddhist kingdom led by the Dalai Lama once again. Now, you can see, and there are other aspects of nationalism, like an us versus them mentality and historical revisionism stuff as well, but that comes into it. But for now, I'll go into that in a second. But you can look at every single step of this, and you can see Muslims who have the exact same sentiments. So, what's the demographic? The demographic is Muslims. What are they seeking to establish? They're seeking to establish a united ummah, or a new caliphate. And it has to be at the expense of all the existing either corrupt, secular tyrannies or socialist republics or corrupt Western-backed kingdoms, or even in the instance of like Spain, for example, it has to come at the expense of the entire nation currently there. It needs to be replaced by a new one. What is the This is Islamo-nationalism. So the proposed homeland. What do you mean?
Is this based on a specific madhab? Is this based on a specific interpretation?
See, there are different with different Muslims. You'll find a different expressions. I'm just giving you a general introduction.
Yeah, but this is why I was wondering, is there a specific group that is taking ownership, or is this like a new concocted reform?
That's the problem. Can I kind of explain? I get this stuff all the time. You know, people saying, "Oh, well, one of these days we're going to unite and just steamroll all over everyone."
Exactly.
And I thought, well, you know what? If you have any kind of a plan, and no matter what your intentions, if step one of your plan is bring every Muslim under the same banner, good luck. It's never going to work. Nobody wants to be the junior partner in that partnership. You understand? You could get them all to agree that it should happen, but that's the only point of agreement.
No, you can't. And this is why I was asking Kling, is there a specific group now that has like a
There are
reformist
some.
group
For
that
example,
has like the
Al
Qaeda
Qaeda is an
version?
example.
I mean, you could get even some very liberal Muslims to say, "Oh yeah, it'd be wonderful if we all joined hands and sang Kumbaya." But you know, what common ground is there beyond that? You know.
Well,
This
you
is
just
all-
delete
it's
chapters
all-
3, 8, and 9, and you're done.
This is
Fairy
not
tales and
like a very
delusions.
defined. This Islamo-nationalism is just how I'm describing this nebulous phenomena among so many Muslims, because it's a similar sentiment, and it functions exactly like ordinary nationalism,
It's
except for a
Ummah-ism.
religious basis. Like anyone who calls themselves, most people who call Andalusi, I would say, exhibit this, because it's Andalusi. We should bring back Andalusia. Yeah, it's like a similar. It's an example of this, wanting to recreate the golden age, this past romanticized golden nation that once existed that we have to recreate now in the present day. For most Muslims, they'll just say, "Oh yeah, golden age of Islam." For Salafi Muslims, they'll say, "Oh, we have to recreate the Sahaba, how it was back then. You know, we have to turn back to how they were." Whatever it is, whichever kind of sub.
It's like the British thinking if they hold on to the. No, it's like the British are thinking if they can hold on to this island off of Argentina, they'll get the empire back or whatever, right? Kind of like that.
More like India.
It's nationalism that's really kind of useless because it's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah. So what it is, right? And you can see it. Like so what is the nation that they're trying to establish? The Ummah. A united Ummah. What is the romanticized past? It's that there was a great golden age when Muslims were all united under a single empire. What is the aspect? Like, and then you see, like, just as with all other forms of nationalism, you'll see there's an us versus them mentality. So there's a victim mentality. Just as the Armenians will be like, "Oh, those damn Turks hate us," and they did genocide them, or the Kurds, "Oh, everyone, the hates us." Well, they do as well, but like every minority trying to establish, every nationalist movement trying to establish national autonomy is doing it whilst they're claiming oppressed or victimized by someone. So for Muslims, it's Great Britain hates us, the USA hates us, the West hates us, they're all to get us. That's the enemy figure. But another great example of how the us versus them mentality is prevalent, and so this is just us versus them mentality, which feeds into the whole this sort of Islamo-nationalist phenomena that is present amongst most Muslims, is the common Muslim response to humanitarian issues. On the rare occasions, the very rare occasions, that Palestine doesn't entirely hog the limelight for Muslim attention, the only humanitarian issues that most Muslims will ever take notice of are those issues involving non-Muslims persecuting other Muslims somewhere in the world. So instances of Muslims persecuting other Muslims are usually ignored, given that they do not fit into the us versus them narrative. So, for example, Turkish oppression of the Kurds, ignored. Iraqi genocide of the Kurds, Shias, and Musharrafs, ignored. Taliban's slaughter of the Shias, ignored. Pakistani oppression of the Ahmadis, ignored.
It gets even more complicated because now there's this spike in tension between Sunni and Shia to where I'm talking to more and more Sunnis who don't consider Shias to be any kind of Muslim. They consider them to be a completely different religion. So now they have more reason not to care.
I mean, the Kurds were Sunni and the Musharrafs were Sunni at least. So at least on those issues. But no, we'll never talk about that. It'll always be what Israel is doing. And if it isn't what Israel is doing, for like 1% of the time, it's not focused on the Palestinians. It'll be, oh, look at the Myanmar oppression of Burmese Muslims. Look at the Chinese oppression of Uyghurs.
It's actually more than that, because if you look at, like, for instance, Sudan, right? It's pretty obvious that the North Muslim Sudanese were clearly, persecuting and wiping out the Southern Christian Sudanese. And when you talk to Muslims, the shame is that that the country has been broken up, not the fact that the Muslims have been murdering their Christians forever. I mean, for as long as it's been a country since the Brits got out of there. And so it's not even. It's the tragedy is that the country broke up, not the fact that Muslims were, committing genocide against a Christian minority or whatever.
But when I don't think I've ever heard in the whole time I've been on Facebook, seeing Muslim posts about humanitarian issues, the whole time I've ever talked to Muslims on Skype or in real life, I don't think I've once seen a Muslim ever express an interest in a humanitarian issue that didn't involve Muslims.
Yeah.
Whereas me, like,
Or that did involve Muslims, but Muslims were on the giving end rather than the receiving end of the injustice. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is.
I mean, like, for example, like, very occasionally, you see, like, I did once see a stand manned by some Muslims for, like, aid to Syria. I think that is the only time that I've ever seen Muslims bring up a humanitarian issue where Muslims are Muslims. But then again, they were definitely all Sunni, and the guys killing everyone in Syria are the Alawi Shia.
Yeah,
So maybe that's why.
I think that. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Oh, this is not like special. Like every nationalist group does this. That's the point, right? This is not a special Muslim thing. Every nationalist group will only focus on the in-group to the exclusion of the out-group. It's just that that's what I didn't realize, that for Muslims, they've got a kind of Islamo-nationalism happening. And so it's and you can see it in the us versus them mentality, their approach to humanitarian issues, the desire for a united nation, the appeals to a glorious past, everything. It's a nationalist movement. I reckon, like,
don't forget about don't forget about the fact that a lot of this is very superficial in the fact, and for instance, like you say that it's Islamo-nationalism, but between, so for instance, like Southeast Asian Muslims, Pakistan or Bangladesh and all these countries, they're treated like shit when it's those Muslims, Sunni or not, for instance, when they're in Saudi Arabia or in one of the Gulf countries.
Yeah.
Right. So it's but if it's between the Southeast Asian Muslims and some other group, then that kicks in, where it's a Muslim, even though they're a Muslim who's a piece of shit according to them.
Yeah. I've seen that. That explicit comment just recently. I've seen that actually explicitly said on a board immediately after the Krauss debate. Said the worst Muslim is better than the best unbeliever. And it's just some hater on some forum. You know what I mean? I'm not going to take too much. I'm not going to take that too much to heart. But let's face it, however prevalent it is among believers, it's certainly prevalent in the scripture. You know, the worst Muslim.
That's the thing as well. Oh, sorry. I think there's a lag.
There might be on your end because
I think that you guys are hearing me delayed. Yeah,
it's possible.
Yeah, your quality is also quite bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now he's joining.
But this is my old saying that the Muslims, very much more than all the other groups, are a social group. Like the Jehovah's Witnesses, they are a social group. I don't see that in other religions so much, but here it's very, very, very much so that they get all their identity, all their secret handshake and everything only from their group.
Jews are exactly the same.
Oh, really? Okay, this I don't know.
Religious system.
The thing is,
no, dude, everything. No, I mean, not all Jews take it seriously, but
if Jehovah's Witness comes to my door, I mean, they're so used to having the door slammed in their face that, I mean, if you're like, okay, no, thank you, before you slam the door, they're like, oh, he was one of the good ones. You know, they're so used to it. But of course, I think Muslims. I mean, imagine a Jehovah's Witness came and he's like, would you like to hear about blah blah blah? I mean, usually you've already told them. Sometimes politely, sometimes impolitely, to piss off before they've said anything. You see them, you see the suit, you see the Bible, you see the, or whatever. You're like, okay, no, thanks, bye. But imagine instead of this saying, okay, bye, they just threw a fit. They just threw a fit and started beating on your door or egging your windows. I mean, that's. I think that there's this decompression between the Muslim and non-Muslim world because for so long. I think Muslims are, you know, in a climate where their beliefs are just being reinforced all the time, you know, whereas you know, in the developed world, religion is, you know, even the religious will satirize or criticize. So it's a completely different environment, and they're just not used to it. They're just not used to it. Any kind of you know, it's like, oh well, before we begin, let me first invite you to Islam, the perfect way of life, and you're like, no thanks. And then they just throw it. They just lose their shit. They just lose their shit. It's going to take some getting used to for them.
So I was reading the other day that the new pope was going to go start washing the feet of prisoners, at some prison or something like that. And I was thinking maybe next he can go, you know, give Ayman Zawahiri a blowjob or something, just as kind of a reaching out to the worst amongst us. Might as well go all the way. I mean, just saying. I don't know why that came up to my head, but it did.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is with this Islamo-nationalism, right, is that it definitely draws upon Islamic tradition for a lot of its elements, like the idea of the ummah, and you know, like even for the us versus them mentality, you can find justifications for all of this kind of stuff in Islamic scripture. But I would say that this isn't like it isn't because of Islam that these people are doing this per se. It's more identity politics, which is driving them to use Islamic tradition as, you know, like especially amongst like immigrant groups in Europe. Muslim, well, they're not, most of them are second, third generation, but Muslim immigrant societies in European societies, because there's, you know, anti-Muslim bigotry or whatever, where it creates like it reinforces this us versus them mentality. It reinforces this kind of Islamo-nationalism, and I mean, this is why, you know, any time you talk to a Muslim, they're going to assume that you're bigoted towards Islam, or that you're an anti-Muslim bigot. Like I'm talking to some UK Muslim girl, I think, on Skype, right? Well, it's all text, but everything we're saying, every time we're talking, it's always accompanied by her commentary on her assuming like that I'm, oh, this is going to be my negative reaction to that. Oh yeah, well, you'd say that. Oh, blah blah. Like, and it's this comment like, if I'm talking to any, and this happens a lot, especially with European Muslims, you know, it's just part of this whole Islamo-nationalist thing, us versus them, the oppressive enemy, you know, and we're a victim and everyone's victimizing us. But does that make sense? So have I outlined this phenomenon of Islamic nationalism, like,
yeah,
in a coherent fashion?
Well, the thing is like that video Stop mentioned earlier about Dawa Man chasing after Lawrence Krauss. There was one point where they're like, "Why you?" They turned around and said, "Why are you following us? What do you want?" And he said, "What? I can't come with you?" And he's like, "Look, we're gonna go someplace else. Could you leave us alone?" And he actually started shouting, "I'm being oppressed! I'm being..." I mean, in the middle of the street, in the night, he starts shouting, "I'm being oppressed! I'm being oppressed!" Now, you know, to be fair, like Stop said, there were a lot of people, a lot of Muslims in the chat section saying this is unacceptable. This is not representative of us. But even though he was very over the top about it, let's face it, it's not that uncommon an attitude that they're in a constant state of oppression, even though he felt safe enough in that neighborhood to be drawing so much attention to himself and shouting in the middle of the night. It must either be a very safe neighborhood, or he must have felt relatively comfortable there. You know? Have you seen
the movie Four Lions? Because there's a scene in it where there's like a community gathering and a discussion on Muslim immigrants, and you know they've got this really douchebag imam who's like convert imam who's like, yeah, you know, Western imperialism, capitalism, and then you've got some moderate Muslim lady, and then you've got some, I don't know, local, you know, British politician or whatever, and in the crowd, this Muslim guy gets up and he's like, oh yeah, you know, blah blah, you know, you think we're all terrorists, right? What about this? And he opens, he's got like a bomb strapped to his chest, and he's like, yeah, you know, blah blah. He does some little spiel, does some little chant, Allah Akbar or whatever, and he pulls the trigger, and it's like, it's all party poppers. And it's like, it's not actually a real bomb. And then he's like, everyone's like, ah, and he's like, oh yeah. But you would have thought, you know, bet you thought that I was going to be a bomb, right, or something. Anyway, the police come in, or the security guards come in, and they rustle him out. And as they're rustling him out,
no, that's right, because if some white guy walked into a crowd with a fucking bomb on his chest, we'd be like, oh, it's just a joke, let it go. You fucking clown.
As he's being rustled out by the security guards for having a fake bomb and then, you know, scaring the shit out of everyone and disrupting everything, the convert imam is like, police state! This is a police state! It's oppression of Muslims! And it's like, because this dude who detonated a fake bomb is being taken out by security. I mean, it's just a movie, right? But, like, that kind of mentality is actually really common amongst this kind of Islamo-nationalist kind of...
Did you guys hear about that story with the Danish imam?
Yes.
A Danish mufti who has gone on record as saying that women who don't wear the hijab deserve to be raped, tried to rape someone but to prove his own point. It wasn't a very good attempt because there was this woman walking her dog in the park, and he walked up to her and he was giving her these really weird looks. So she picks up her dog, and he had whipped his cock out. And so she runs away, and he chases her with his dick out through the park. Then she makes it away, and he goes and hides in some bushes, and then escapes. And then and that's the first thing when they put the charges against him. They said, "Oh well, I'm just being targeted because I'm because of racism or anti."
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Come on.
Atheismo, you know damn well. No, you know damn well.
There's a quick story, Ali. There's a very quick story.
Go ahead.
A friend of mine is a Jew. Whenever he gets stopped by the cops, he always says, "Are you targeting me because I'm a Jew?" And he gets away.
And,
well,
but here's the thing: this guy, he's not just some random asshole. You know, every community produces weirdos. You know, but this guy's relatively respected amongst at least some kind of community. He's some sort of certified. He's mufti. He's a certified interpreter of these things. He's qualified to teach it.
Yeah, but I don't know about this mufti, but like this sentiment is common amongst the overwhelming majority of Muslims I've ever talked to. They all feel like they're being oppressed by someone.
Yep.
Like it's part of this Islamo-nationalist narrative.
Look at Hamza.
Us versus them.
Yeah, look at Hamza. The same thing. Look at his face when he is now bringing out his latest video. There's always, oh, poor me. Look how bad he was to me. It's terrible, pathetic.
Okay, the guy's name is Shahid Mehdi, if anyone wants to look that up. Shahid Mehdi, because I mean, I understand it's such a bizarre story. I thought, you know, like I took it with a grain of salt at first as well. If anyone wants to look that up, I'd love nothing more than to find out that it was made up. I'll have to issue a retraction, but the guy comes out and says previously that it deserves. I don't know.
Well, didn't some guy in Europe just get away with raping somebody because it was counted as culture shock or something?
What?
You saw a naked woman. I thought this was in Europe somewhere, where some Moroccan.
It has to be a fucking lie.
No, I don't think this is a lie. This was reported on major television. Hey, let me finish. This was reported on American national news, so I would be pretty shocked if it weren't true, where some Moroccan man attacked some woman somewhere in Europe, and the judge said that it was culture shock. I mean, I'll find something while you guys...
If it was on American national news, I'd be shocked if it was true, no matter what. See, the problem,
I don't think so.
You're stuck with the Fox News narrative. And
Hey! I don't watch Fox News. You can't blame me for that.
Well, I mean, but Ali, you haven't watched the debate. Hamza must have said that at least 3 times to Krauss. He said, well, you're the Fox News debate. You're just with the Fox News. And then the audience loved it, even though it was completely... He never elaborated on why or what he meant by that. But yeah. And then, like I said, it's amazing. You know the other guy, you know the guy that used they call him Islamic Rage Boy, and he was a meme for a while. This guy is just from Kashmir,
He was
just
so
shouting
hurt
and
as well.
screaming with these awful
He
T's.
was so hurt by that. He was like, "Oh, you know, why are they doing that? It's mean to me."
Yeah, they caught up with him. Now he's out there actually shouting that people deserve to be decapitated. And then when interviewed about how he felt about people putting pictures up of him, he said it was an act of terrorism. I mean, you understand? I understand that, you know, like when violence breaks out between two groups, and someone says, well, you know, someone, you know, this person set off a car bomb, but your country, you know, led a drone strike. Okay, well, I can understand that people say, okay, violence for violence, there's no one who has a clear moral high ground. But when you think decapitation and photoshopping a picture are the same thing, then you clearly have a persecution complex. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna be. Well, anyway, I actually saw one of the funniest ones of all is you know that old oil painting, The Scream. They have one where they photoshopped his face and it's got the red sky and then the guy's scream. That one's one of the funnier ones. I should make that my desktop. But
Pervert.
I'm going to change back the debate. It was just so bad. One of the things that Hamza came up with, and that he comes up with frequently, is he talked about how the Quran gives us the tools we need to interpret it, so there's no excuse for interpreting it incorrectly. And the verse that the ayat that he cites says, you know, some of these verses are literal, some of them are allegorical, and only God knows which are which. And then it goes on, like, you know, it says to praise Him. And I thought, so that's not really giving us the tools we need to interpret. That's telling us that the tools to interpret exist, but they're exclusive property of God. I mean, I don't understand. You know, if I gave you a box of chocolates and I said, okay, these chocolates are great, they're also magical. Each one you eat can add a year onto your life. But be warned, some of them have, you know, a center that has that is mixed with the poison from the glands of an Amazonian tree frog, and just one drop of this neurotoxin will just kill you horribly and painfully. So here you go, and you say, well, I don't even want them. I mean, that sounds dangerous. And I said, don't worry. Inside the box of chocolates are instructions that you need to know, and they will tell you how to eat these chocolates. So I leave, you open up, you see the chocolate, it's like any other chocolate box. Some are milk chocolate, some are dark, they all have different designs. There's no way to diagnose what's in them, right, just by looking at them. So you read the instructions, and it says, some of these chocolates are poisoned, others are not. Only God knows which. Bon appetit. You know, it's like, okay. So you give us. I mean, it's like the Quran. You give someone, it's like, this is the important manual for living the perfect life in this world, and also, you know, getting the eternal reward in the next. Some of it's to be taken seriously. Other is mostly poetic language for aesthetic effect. And I'm not going to tell you which. I mean, but Hamza will say, oh well, we're told how to interpret it. I mean, it's so many lame rhetorical devices, and that's just one of them.
And you need to remember the most important sentence, HMS.
I'm sorry?
That's a sentence.
Nobody got it.
No, what was it? I missed it.
It's one of the 29 single-letter verses.
Oh, right.
And those are the most important ones, because they are the HMs, and they are all the indications that this is truly from a God, because nobody else would know what to make with this nonsense.
Someone has linked me the story that they think was the one about. Okay, yeah, and then Ali.
Yeah, it's statutory rape. I just linked it too. I mean, it wasn't made up, but it was not. I mean, I guess I don't want to say that because I know somebody's not going to like that. But it was statutory rape of a 13-year-old. The judge let him go because in Islam, having sex with a 13-year-old is, well, just fine and dandy. So that's it.
This is not about the
Daily
Pakistanis
Mail.
grooming the girls in the UK, right?
What?
This is not about the Pakistanis in the UK grooming girls.
I've heard that. See, the thing is, like, when people say they're doing it because they're Muslims, I mean, maybe the thing is, Islam forbids zina, so I don't understand how people blame Islam for Pakistanis being, you know, all these sex gangs or something. I mean, it's yeah.
Well, I mean, the only reason I bring this up is because the judge himself says that since in Islam it's okay to have sex with 13-year-olds, that this young man should not be
But
jailed.
it's like saying if I killed someone because by my culture they offended my honor, can I get away with that then? As you know, it was an accident because in his culture it's okay to kill someone. Like because if they give you the routine
I think you have a case to make. Because
well, Mikey, I think he's a troll.
Who's a troll? Me?
No. There's a guy in the chat calling himself Peach XX, and he keeps on copy-pasting, I'm a Muslim and I do not like the situation, man.
Who knows? So, I don't think he's serious.
No.
Well, going back to the...
Well, I mean, and I apologize. The person who sent me the story, their name was... I hope you don't mind me saying. Their name was Khalil. So I said, oh, maybe we got a Muslim caller. And it was like, oh, no.
Well,
we'll never get...
to the point about persecution, I just think it's funny how whenever you hear somebody talk about profiling in an airport or something, you hear usually people on the left crying and screaming, oh, this is racism, blah, 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 this and that. But in New York, the stop and frisk thing, because of the fear of young black men shooting people in New York, gets, you know, nobody. It's been going on forever now. And when, I mean, I hear about it, but when?
Well,
like,
they need to convert to Islam.
Almost never, right? And I was just thinking, like, you know, if we're going to make this argument about Islam, which is not a race, then certainly you could make this argument about what's going on in the other places, and it's certainly much more egregious if it's made about a race than it is about some sort of ideology that, you know, it can be interpreted to mean you can blow stuff up in the air. You know, it seems a little out of proportion when we talk about, you know, oppressing, quote unquote, oppressing Muslims.
Yeah.
And
the thing is, it's like I don't want to give anyone the impression that we're callous to what, you know, often happens. I mean, like when you know, the Burmese government burns down a village in you know, their countryside, you know, whether they're, you know, Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, or whatever, you know, it's not that we are without empathy for those people or that we don't acknowledge that it's wrong, but you know, like I said, it's the fact that, like I said, a Buddhist village can be burned down by the Burmese military, and then a Muslim village gets burned down. If you don't care about both of those villages, then I don't want to hear about objective moral standards or who is this or that. And then I have to add another thing. It really grates on me the way they, with, you know, out one side of their mouth they say, well, you're terrible, why don't you have more sympathy? And then on the other side of their mouth they say, oh, by the way, one of these days we'll get our shit together and then we're going to come for you and we're going to kill you or enslave you. You know what I mean? It's how many times have I seen people in the same posts or even the same sentences play the sad violin while also threatening you to beat you upside the head with that violin? You know what I mean? It's like so many people with their one of these days we'll get you. One of these days, I mean, if they're not content with the, you know, the threats of hellfire, one of these days we're going to take over the whole world and enslave you all.
Do you think? I mean, sometimes I look at this and I think, you know how in a war, if one side unilaterally disarms and the other side is not honorable, let's say, then you've just committed suicide, pretty much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think that, in a way, this type of unilateral respect is working in the same way, as far as, you know, respecting Muslims' rights and this and that, when they just really don't give a shit? Again, obviously, you know, with all the pre-qualifications in place here, right?
Yeah.
So
no,
it seems like sometimes that does happen. Like,
yeah. There's a long list of situations where I feel there's a one-way street of respect, like the whole stink about the gender segregation at the debate. I don't know if you were you aware of this, Ali? That they divided up the seating by gender when they got there.
And right, I heard something about it. I haven't seen the actual debate, but I've seen some clips where Krauss is making a fuss about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Krauss said, when they originally were scheduling it, they said, well, we're going to segregate the seating. He said, no, I won't do it. You have to promise me that you won't do it. Well, they did it anyway, after agreeing not to, because otherwise Krauss wouldn't show up. I guess they thought that he wouldn't notice, or they didn't expect him to do what he did. But then afterwards, you had all these believers saying, oh, well, it's a violation of our, religion and culture and so forth. And I'm like, okay, look, you have two different sets of values, two different sets of rules. You agreed to compromise. And now you're saying, oh, we were victimized. Okay, oh, how dare you? Oh, they forced themselves upon it. Oh, we don't, and it's just indicative of the one-way street of respect. It's like everything large or small, it seems like they say, well, we have this value, you have your value, and even though you're a guest in in our society, we'll meet you over halfway because diversity is important to us, tolerance is important to us. So even though it's our house, we'll let you put your feet up on the couch. Just take your shoes off, please. And they say, no, no, no. In my culture, we don't have to do that. Boom, puts their dirty shoes on the couch. And it's just so frustrating. It's just so frustrating that they say, look, we have permission from a higher power. We don't need to compromise. Some of them seem to act like it would be an act of wrongdoing for us to compromise on anything. It's an act of wrongdoing for us to take 50-50 or 60-40 because we deserve it all.
And anyway, we don't have elevators.
What?
Yeah.
Anyway, we don't have elevators.
What? Maybe that just went over. Did anybody else get that?
Well, no, I didn't. I guess it's maybe elevator get or something. But anyway, I've got another random point that I wanted to bring up, just randomly. I've been looking into sort of the archaeology and the early historiography of Islam, and it's pretty fascinating. The picture. I mean, Tom Holland was more right than you'd think. And it's really fascinating to look. Like, for example, there is no mention of Muhammad in Muslim sources until the second fitna, and that's when Abdullah bin Az-Zubair is putting coins with the mention of Muhammad in his caliphate, and then when he's defeated by the Marwanis start also putting. Under Abdul Malik bin Marwan, they start putting Muhammad on all their coins as well. But all previous caliphs, from the Rashidi caliphs to Muawiyah and the Sufyani dynasty of the Umayyas, did not ever mention Muhammad, which is strange. And so it seems like religion, or Muhammad's religion, or Islam, wasn't particularly important, or was not as important to the early Muslims as it was to later Muslims. And I mean, when we look at the title as well, the Khalifas, there was no Khalifa in the Rashidi period. Abu Bakr was not a Khalifa, nor was Umar Abu Bakr. Even Muawiyah was not a Khalifa. The term Khalifat, it isn't even Khalifat Rasulullah. It's not the Caliph of the Messenger of God. It was Khalifa Allah. So it's the Caliph of God.
I still don't think that's a knockout blow for.
No.
Wait, because look, the first.
No, you don't understand.
Wait a minute. The first few de facto Roman emperors didn't call themselves emperors.
No. But here's the thing. I'm not saying that Muhammad didn't exist. I think he existed. Right. I think he lived in Hijaz, right? So I'm not. All I'm saying is that the historical emergence is different. Early Islam was not what the Muhammad that Muslims believe in did not exist. It was different because I mean the caliphs would call themselves Amir al-Mu'minun. They were the commander of the believers, not Khalifat Rasul Allah.
Exactly.
And then you look at, for example, the Medina Charter. Look at the Medina Charter, and you'll see that this is actually most overwhelming majority of historians think the Medina Charter is authentic. It's an old charter that was supposedly drawn up by Muhammad when he moved to Yathrib or Medina. And it's the Arabic is so archaic and blah 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 blah. They think, yeah, this is definitely real. This is definitely true. So the thing is, the Medina Charter, when you read it, it doesn't really fit with the Islamic narrative, because it doesn't mention any of the Jewish tribes that Muhammad fought with. And if Muhammad had just moved to Medina when he wrote this, that makes absolutely no sense, because these were the three huge major Jewish tribes in Yathrib. Why are they not mentioned? It mentions all these other little minor Jewish tribes, heaps of them. But it doesn't mention Banu Qurayza, Banu Nadir, Banu Qainuqa. Weird, right? And it also doesn't mention Christians. And so what the Medina Charter sets up is a religious community, the Ummah of believers, Mu'minun. One second. Anyway, and so it sets up a religious community united under Muhammad of Muslims, Muslimun, and Jews, under the leadership of Muhammad as a united community to wage holy war and to support each other in holy war against, well, an unspecified ruler. And then if you look at the earliest Greek, Aramaic, and Armenian sources about Muhammad, which are from, like, Doctrine of Jacob, 634, Thomas the Presbyter, 640, Bishop Sebius, 660, and some other unidentified texts that we don't know the exact date of. What they tell us is that Muhammad, well, you know, he was a prophet amongst the Arabs. He was really monotheistic, and it seems like he was really influenced by Judaism, because Muhammad, these very early texts tell us Muhammad was really influenced by Moses and Abraham, and that he preached. He was, no lying, no zina, no carrion, no wine, whatever. But this is the key thing, right? Muhammad told the Arabs that we are the descendants of Ishmael, which was a common belief in late antiquity, and he said the Holy Land is our God-given birthright. And so, citing their Abrahamic inheritance, Muhammad ordered his followers to embark on a holy war of conquest to reclaim Palestine. So it's sort of like well, there's a book that's come out recently that is arguing that he did lead it. But either way, this picture of Islam is different, because it isn't. I mean, even at the time of Abd-al-Malik bin Marwan, right? He's really that's another thing. These Mu'minun, whoever they were, especially it makes sense if they were Jewish as well, they were really anti-Christian. They hated the cross and they hated the Trinity. Right, and so this is what all these early sources are telling us, even up to like the early Umayyad dynasty. All these contemporary Greek, Aramaic, and Armenian sources saying these Mu'minun are really anti-Trinitarian and anti-cross, and they're and even like Abd-al-Malik bin Marwan, right? This is when Muhammad becomes the Jewish part of it is being relegated, and when the Muslim part of it is being made more and more supreme, as a means of identity for the ruling Arab elite. And Abd-al-Malik bin Marwan is really anti-Christian still, even though he's making Islam supreme over Judaism. He still exhibits that really anti-Trinity. Like if you look at the Dome of the Rock, the original Dome of the Rock built by Abd-al-Malik bin Marwan. This is supposed to be, when Muhammad was raised, from Jerusalem here at this spot, and he went up to heaven, and sure, Ottoman era murals and stuff they built there all talk about the ascension, the night journey, but all of the earliest architecture there built by Abd-al-Malik or al-Walid is all anti-Christian. It's all anti-Christian polemics. It's all Jesus was not the Son of God. It's all quotes from the Quran about how God is one, God is not three, Jesus was not the Son of God, he was just a great prophet. So it's a really interesting how the archaeology and early historiography is presenting a very different picture. And it seems likely that the reason why Islamic tradition portrays Jews as being these evil, conniving, sneaky, pigs and dogs who are all the Qurayza and the Nadir and the Qainuqa, they're all plotting against us. Oh, you know, Muhammad knew they were plotting against him, so he kicked them out. Oh, yeah, you know, the sneaky Jew was sneaking around, so he went down and he killed that Jew, and all this kind of crap. That would seem, therefore, to have been later Muslim attempts in probably the late Umayyad era, Urwa bin Zubayr and Azuri and so forth, to actually separate and disassociate Islam from Judaism. Just as early Christians had to, like, really hate on Jews and say, oh, the Jews, their blood is eternally, has to be pain for what they did to Jesus, la la la. Just as the early Christians had to disassociate themselves, they had to demonize Judaism as a means to separate their religion from Judaism and make themselves, we're the successor religion. Muslims had to do the exact same thing towards Jews, which is why Islamic tradition demonizes Jews so much and has all the Jews doing all these bad things and Muhammad killing and massacring them. Whereas they didn't have to do that towards Christians because Christians were never part, in a big way, of this early monotheistic movement.
Okay.
Just some food for thought.
Yeah. We have a first caller. Welcome to the show, Mohammed Al-Naqib. You wanted to talk. You wanted to discuss more about what we were talking about, suffering of Muslims. Please go ahead and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
You're really quite quiet. You'll need to turn your volume up or fix your audio settings.
Can you hear right now? Can you hear?
I can hear you. You could be a bit louder.
Okay, just a minute. Yes, please.
There you go.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. Thanks for having me here with you guys. First of all, sorry for that. Couldn't replay you by our piece. We cannot say salam to other unless you are Muslim. So that's first step.
That's fine.
First, I want to introduce the Muslim societies over Middle East. So I'm gonna talk to one for beginning the humanity and who's the Adam and Allah sent him to the earth and the innocence or the fitrah in Islam. Those who
Wait, I'm confused. So you're going
Yeah,
to...
I think you need to turn down... You need to either turn down Blog TV...
is not visible.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm on Blog
you need
TV.
to,
I
you need
have
to
an
shut it
account
off.
Yeah,
You
you
have to
should. You should either mute or minimize your Blog TV. If you're hearing an echo, that's why, because you're hearing yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you.
When I rang into that other show, that there's another skeptic
So now, how's it?
show, and when I rang into it, and I was trolling them pretending to be a Muslim. Oh,
I'm
fine.
online,
I deliberately left
we
my Blog
can
TV
hear
on
you.
because I knew that it
Are you hearing an echo now?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay, cool. So you had go ahead. Were you gonna?
I have it. I want to ask a question, please.
Okay, yeah.
Who of you Muslim right here? Who's the Muslim here? No one?
No, Ali is an ex-Muslim. The
Yeah,
rest of us.
I am murtad. I am an apostate.
A'udhu billah.
I used to be a Muslim, and
Why?
I no longer believe.
Anyway, I just want to advise, or give you advice.
Okay.
Actually, every and each human that Allah created, the God, there is no two or three or Jesus or all those who messenger of God. So only one to worship is Allah. So I'm not that tough person, or I'm gonna be angry why you get back and you being Muslim and you convert and why. I'm not about this, but I want to advise that who non-Muslim to accept how to accept Islam. Advise you to watch the Deen show. Have you seen? Did you see the Deen show? Have you seen this?
Yes,
I think I
Yusuf
have.
Estes.
Which
Yes.
Dean? Which Dean?
Well,
you mean Yusuf Estes?
Yeah, he means the Dean show. That's what's the name of the host?
Yeah.
Or Adam Dean?
Adam Dean.
Dean or
Yeah.
Yusuf?
Adam
Yeah,
Dean or Yusuf Estes?
Yeah, right.
Which
Which
one?
one?
So-
There are two.
Which one?
Adam Deen
So-
or Yusuf Estes?
You talking
No,
about Adam
we don't
Dean?
have- We are alhamdulillah.
Right.
We are.
Okay, so was there a question? I mean,
It
it sounded like you were saying that you had a question.
Right.
Was
Oh well,
is-
his question was his original question was just were there any believers?
Oh, okay, all right, never mind.
That's all.
Maybe I thought I missed
But-
the question. But go ahead.
But Muhammad al-Naqib, or al-Naqib, brother.
Yeah, right.
You were saying that you wanted to sort of get
No.
non-believers towards Islam.
Yeah, right. See, actually,
well,
Let him explain, Klingschor. Go ahead, Mohammed.
yes. See, I'll tell you not a story, it's a reality
Okay.
part. So, just take a moment with yourself. Could you imagine who created the unity? It does
Why
not
did
mean.
you say who?
Okay. The human being brain cannot exist that things and consist who created. For example, you have a ball. Somebody who made that ball or the computer.
By
the computer
who?
can see you.
By
The
who?
computer or anything can see, and you couldn't
Why
imagine
did you
that
say who?
part.
Let him finish his entire
Yeah.
point. Let him finish his entire. I think
yeah,
we've all.
okay, we know this argument. It's the argument from design. So we're
Yeah.
well aware.
Yes,
How could
yes.
you have a clock without a clock maker? How could you have a phone without a phone maker? You know, the whole world is a really intricate, system that therefore there must be an intricate design. That's great. I do really want to
and there's many reasons or many points view that part and the physically on our life, on the real life from Quran. There is many surah or ayah or what's called that part of the Quran are discussed
we know.
about many reality of our life. So from that, not only this, Allah Azza wa Jalla or the Almighty Allah sent the many prophets, not the last one, Muhammad, peace be upon him, sent him to why he sent him to the Arab world. Why does that happen to Arab world? To help them from the ignorance, because they worship Al-Uzza and Lat to link them to Allah. Have you read about that? So
Well,
I'm gonna
Jahiliyyah.
talk. So it's kind of dull and to contact him to the creator. It's called shirk. That's what we don't
Okay,
want.
I think we've let you talk for quite a bit uninterrupted, and I think we understand what you're trying to say. And I'm going to speak for myself here, but I'm going to assume that everybody agrees with me, and if you don't, please let me know. There's no reason why he would talk to the Arabs who were mushrikeen. Let me finish, please. Hey, let me finish. We let you talk, okay? Let me finish. So there's no difference. Can I finish, please?
1 second, Mohammed, please let
And I
Ali
finish.
come back.
Yes. Okay. So if there's no reason to say that Allah sent the Prophet to the Arabs because they were mushrikeen, when in China there were also mushrikeen who were much more well equipped to deliver this message from Allah, and so there's no good point to make about the Arabs being mushrikeen and all this stuff. There was plenty more ignorant people who were also mushrikeen who Allah could have sent to. So that's nonsense. There's no reason that is not a point to make.
Why?
Let
Did
me
he-
talk.
why did he not
now,
send?
Kling,
Can I please finish
our usual rule applies. There's 4 of us, 1 of him. If 1 of us speaks, he gets a chance to return. Okay, so please.
Okay,
Alright, I'm
fine.
speaking next.
Okay, fine. Allah Azza wa Jal sent too many prophets, not only Muhammad, peace be upon him. It's the last messenger. So
Okay.
can you figure out that happens in around the world? Jesus and Abraham and
Okay, but you just said that why Muhammad was sent to the Arabs
why?
because they were
You
ignorant
answer, well,
mushrikeen. Because
yes,
they were ignorant mushrikeen, but there were plenty of other ignorant mushrikeen other than the Arabs
There's
who had.
many reasons of that.
Yeah.
One, sent him to keep
And
the
the
myths
Arabs-
of
Let him come back. Let him come back, Klingschor. Please, Mohammed.
I bag
Allah
speaking
Azza-
next after this.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, Allah Azza wa Jal sent Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, to put the mercy to all humankind, whether in Arab or the East or the West or Asia. And you can practically, or just you can Google it, Wikipedia, see how many Muslims are there in Asia and how many Muslims there in America right now. They are reverted to Islam, and we're proud of it.
Okay, well, I have to cut in. That wasn't.
Okay,
that wasn't.
okay,
That,
no,
but
now
I
it's
want
me.
to. Before we move on to something else, Mohammed, I don't think that was Ali's point. Ali's point. I mean, you could have. The point is, you're saying. You seem to be saying he sent them. He's decided to send an angel, a message to the Arabs for the reason, but that could have applied to anyone. You know, the whole. I mean,
right.
the whole world were mushrikeen in some sense. You know, there were. I guess the Jews were the only polytheists at the time. You know, everyone else had something.
No. Somehow there was Christianity who believed before Islam. The Christianity who believed in one God, that Allah, that it was true, or there was they were that in the real path, and that real path, that who worship Allah Azza wa Jal and correctly path. So who make one behind or join one beside Allah Azza wa Jal? Even in Islam, have you heard about the Sufi or many kinds of them? So it's called shirk. Allah will not forgive any people who does that.
What, you consider Sufism to be shirk? Is that what
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Okay, I think we've made our point.
Now,
Let Klingschor do his thing. Yeah.
Right. So you said at the beginning, what was the first point you made? That why would that Allah sent Muhammad to the Arabs, because he sent prophets everywhere. Guess what? The Quran tells us that Allah had already sent prophets to the Arabs, Hud and Saleh. Okay, so they were already. Whereas we have no evidence that there were any prophets sent to China or to India or to the East Indies. So then you said, but don't worry, because Muhammad was not just for the Arabs, he was for everyone. Well, Islam only came to Asia, to Southeast Asia, in like the 1500s and 1600s. Before then, they were all overwhelmingly Hindu, polytheistic, and they had never really heard or interacted with Muslims before. So all these people all over the world, in the Americas, for thousands of years, never had any access to.
It wasn't like that. It wasn't like that.
It was really impractical, right? It was a silly thing to do. Why it doesn't make any sense. Like why he would send Muhammad, and you said let's just say, okay, sure. Allah, it made sense for Allah to send Muhammad to Arabia. Why would he send him to the bloody Hijaz? Why not to Yemen, where people can read and write? Why not to the north, to the Nabatean civilization, where people can read and write? So the Quran could have been set down, boom, in stone, instantly. No. We have this whole process of these Sahabi forgetting verses and people not remembering it properly, and all these wars and disagreements. And still now, which version of the Quran is true? We have Ibn Mas'ud's Quran, Ubay bin Ka'b's Quran. They only established the canonical set text of the Quran was established in about 100 years ago in Egypt, in Cairo. Like, it was silly for Muhammad to have been sent to Hijaz. He should have been sent, if he was going to be sent to the Arabs, it should have been in Yemen or the north. So it doesn't make sense. Your model is impractical.
How do you analyze that?
Well, easy, because I go, let's see, what will be the benefit, which model is more practical for the preservation of the Quran and the dissemination of Islam? Is it sending Muhammad to the Hijaz, or is it sending Muhammad to the Chinese emperor? Sending the Quran to some merchant in Hijaz, or somewhere people can actually read and write, or the Roman emperor, or the Persian and the Roman emperor simultaneously. That would have been much more productive.
There was also prophets in that place.
No. See,
please, can I make a point?
This is the final messenger. The final messenger who's uncorrupted. Right? So why wasn't he sent? Why wasn't the most important messenger sent to the most important regions of the world, where it would have been preserved?
They were on the bad path, and they were on the
Arabs were in Jahiliyyah.
Yeah, in Jahiliyyah. That's it. So
yeah, but the Arabs had been sent. The Arabs had been sent prophets previously. So the Arabs were in no worse position than anyone else in the world who had been sent prophets previously, and then who had relapsed on the message. So everyone's on the same playing field by the time we get to Muhammad. So there's no reason to choose the Arabs over anyone else.
He has advantage, our beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nobody has that advantage to make him a prophet, and Allah chose him.
What do you mean?
to
What
be a
advantage?
prophet as
What advantage?
the properties of to make him. He was truly correct person.
No. He
never
became
bring-
perfect.
This is an endless discussion.
Kling,
See, you're doing a fallacy now, because Muhammad only became perfect because angels came down to rinse Satan's influence out of his heart with Zamzam water. So that would have been done to any prophet who was selected to be the seal of the prophet.
and why doesn't he do
only
that to
perfect.
everyone? Sorry, I hate to chip
Allah.
in. I hate to do piggybackings. I'm not trying to gang up on you, Muhammad, but I do think that that's a kind of a valid point
Okay.
that begs question. You know, if angels can come down and wash Muhammad's heart and make him pure and make him suitable, I don't understand why they couldn't do that.
For
to someone.
sure, for sure, nobody can see the angels.
Well, but this is backed up by
But
the
Islamic
literature, though.
tradition,
The
Islamic
speech,
tradition tells us
yeah.
that Muhammad
We are
was
listening.
sinless. Because
Can I have a
he became
question?
prophet.
Well, okay, well,
It
like,
wasn't like God chose Muhammad because he was sinless. No, Muhammad was sinless because God chose him. All the prophet, every single prophet in Islam is sinless.
Yes,
Right, and
Klingschor.
because
We're now
you're a
going to go on and on and on about the same topic. There's not going to be any consideration.
No, we're making progress.
if Muhammad has something to say before you ask your question, stop. Let's give him a chance to say it.
Yes.
Okay, but no coming back.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna leave it dead. Muhammad, you get the last word.
Well, no, but then yeah, on this issue, then Stop has a question. So go ahead.
Could I ask a question, please?
Yes, please.
Okay. Who of you feeling comfortable with his faith?
I feel perfectly comfortable with my
We don't
lack
have
of
any
faith.
faith. Yeah, we don't have any faith.
There is no God. You don't believe in God, Ali, right?
No, we
You
don't. We
don't
don't
believe?
believe in a God. It's not just me. Everybody on this panel doesn't believe in God.
We're materialists and rationalists. If you
I'm not necessarily a materialist.
So you also, Jane,
I'm sorry?
you don't believe in God.
Nobody
I
here.
don't think that there's
Nobody
any good,
here believes there's evidence for the existence of a God because nobody has provided evidence. Why do you ask?
So the reason why I'm here. The reason why I'm here to ask you about that, and why you talk about Islam. What do you want of Islam? So if you don't believe in
Okay.
God, okay, the
Can
Islam.
I ask you
believing.
a question?
well, no, I mean, no, don't ask. Let's. He deserves
No,
an answer.
this is related. I want to answer
Well, no.
exactly the point.
Okay,
The
as
point
long as
that-
it
Why
he
you make-
deserves an answer. He deserves
Why
an
you
answer, that's all.
sit and why you sit together and gathering to speak about the things that you didn't believe about it?
Well,
Because
Muhammad,
we have
it's personal
questions
to
about Islam.
Well,
We
every-
have questions which are unanswered. We are
Not
looking for
different
people
parts.
like
Different parts
you
talk about Islam
to
and you
come
don't believe
and
in God.
answer what we're trying to do is have people like you to answer questions. Like, for example, I do not understand when you say that prophets and messengers were sent to people. Was there a prophet or a messenger sent to Iceland?
See, essentially, the physiological of the Earth was different from many centuries. The continents of America and the Asia and the Middle East and many where it has many there is many factors has effect on our Earth. So which part exactly? So have you heard about the barrier between
Iceland.
two?
I'm
Can
talking about
before we get
Iceland.
too far off of this,
The next person to speak needs to address Muhammad's question.
I'm going to
want
address
to.
Okay,
Muhammad.
then Ali.
Can I? Yeah,
Why can't
because
I
it's
finish
a
what I
personal
have
thing.
I'm sorry. God.
I mean, we started going off into, do you hear about barriers in the sea and things like that? I think that
Yeah.
No.
personal.
I finish my point. Can't
Okay,
I
fine.
finish my
Stop.
point?
Finish up.
Muhammad, did
Yes.
he send a prophet or anybody to Iceland? I mean, 1,000 years ago, Iceland was the same as it is today. I'm not asking about 4 billion years ago. I'm talking about 1,000 years ago. Was there anybody sent to Iceland?
So was anybody sent to Mars? Could you answer that?
Was anybody sent to Iceland here on this planet?
See,
A prophet, he means.
yeah, I got his point, exactly. But it doesn't mean that provocative. It's kind of Anyway, I will answer you. See, the too many prophets that we don't know about them, or we know about them, but the first was Abraham. After
we don't know that.
was Adam.
Let him come back in full stop. Let him come back in full.
See, Adam alayhi salam.
We know that.
Yeah, the first one.
Is your answer I don't know?
He been in heaven. You know that? Adam alayhi salam and...
Is your answer you don't know?
Muhammad,
the answer you don't know.
Okay,
question is...
So
now I gotta stop this. That's all three of you ganging up on him, okay? But I will say, Muhammad.
I have one answer
Okay.
for
Yes.
which name? This Mona Lisa. Which name?
Stop spamming. Stop.
See,
spamming.
anyway,
Yeah,
many prophets are sent, and many positions on our earth. And the first is Adam. He been on heaven and sent because the apple, because he follow the shaitan or the devil, the advice, and Allah Azza wa Jal, he sent to earth. From that,
So
he prayed to Allah, and Allah accepted. So there is let me
Guys,
final.
okay, that doesn't. Let him speak.
I get it. We
Enough.
understand the
I'm going to
answer.
start kicking people. I'm going to kick either Kling or Stop out of the call. Let Muhammad speak.
Okay.
We know.
I know we
Finally.
know. Let him speak. Don't make me throw you out. Please continue.
Yeah, okay, right. See, Adam alayhi salam sent to the earth, okay? There is one, he prayed to Allah, and Allah accepts his praying, and he forgive him in that time. So, there is two paths. One who follow the devil, one who follow the truth. Alhamdulillah, we are follow the truth.
And Iceland?
Okay.
Not an answer to his
Yeah,
question.
it's not an answer.
Iceland, nobody can
I've
live
been
there.
waiting now.
What language
Nobody.
Now I want to
the
speak.
prophet
Now I can
speak
speak.
that was sent to Iceland?
Nobody. Have you heard about? Let me just.
Can we please answer the question about why?
Iceland.
Can I
The answer I don't know. I don't know.
Why
The
can't
answer I don't
Okay,
know.
that's fine. That's
Many
fine.
many prophets are sent into many positions. So
Oh my God.
somehow maybe the Iceland, because the humanity or the human being was in different level. See,
Okay,
we are now.
is it
We are
possible?
right now.
So
Let
really-
me
Okay,
tell you one
please.
thing. Let me tell you one thing, please, if you don't mind. See, we are right now. We have a tall person. I'm not kidding. See, maximum 2.5 meters right now. See, in like many centuries back, the human being was in the level you will never just imagine that level, or the what's called the part of his body, how he was, or kind of that. So many kinds, many factors has reflected and effects on the earth. But what we
My
believe
question
that we
is,
are all.
Muhammad,
Yes.
you are talking
So
about
you are
something-
from Ireland, right?
You are talking about something that nobody really cares for. I asked a question to you. I asked, is it possible that a prophet was sent to Iceland? What language was he speaking? Was he speaking in Icelandish?
So
He
do
did-
you
he did
you
say
ever
at one
heard?
point- He did say at one
you-
point that he didn't know for sure, and that's fine. That's fine.
No, but this is not my point. My point
Don't
is,
interrupt, Atheismo.
is it possible that somebody went to Iceland and spoke Icelandish to the people?
For sure, the unity. It's
But
not
if there was
independent
somebody-
on
Let him
Ireland
answer.
or
Let him answer. Stop.
He said for
See,
sure.
Okay, we have a space that we are living in. It's a ring in the desert, and after that ring in the desert, and 7 parts, the levels. Do you get my point? We are living in the ring, that ring in the desert. After that, there is another ring, such a ring. It's just figure out the example about it. It's not.
No, this is not my point.
So,
I have to go
I
now.
don't quite get it.
So can I get a point in before I leave?
My
Yes.
point is,
yeah, nobody,
was
not
somebody
nobody
sent-
care. Nobody care about. Nobody has care whether somebody sent there. But what we care about, in whole our unity, to worship our God who created that, Because we don't
you're not getting my point. My point is, if somebody is sent, if a God sent a messenger to Iceland to tell the Icelandic people in Icelandic language, there must have been a perfect Quran in the Icelandic language. There must have been a Quran in every language, for every country, for every citizen, for every nation, for every language that exists. Where are all those Qurans in the perfect languages?
How does this
This
answer
is
the
why
question?
we are
of why
here.
we
We are
I
trying
get
to
it.
find
No. I will answer him. I will answer him.
When I
I will
interrupt,
answer
No,
him.
when I
you can't,
interrupt,
like,
I
let
get kicked off the show. But if Ali interrupts or you interrupt Atheismo, that's cool. Like, can I just get one word in? I've been waiting for like 15 minutes now.
Okay, fine, go.
Right, cool, fantastic. All right, Muhammad, everything you were saying, this huge, long, philandering explanation about Adam and stuff, you could have, it was one sentence. You could have replied to Stop Spamming, right? Your whole argument was one sentence. I don't know, but the Quran says that prophets were sent to other people, so maybe one was sent to Iceland. That's all you had to say instead of this.
Have you heard
Oh,
about
Adam, when Adam was in
Have
heaven,
you heard?
that was it.
Open
Now,
Open the cave.
so you don't
Surah
know.
Al-Cave.
Now,
Okay.
pardon?
I'm listening.
Now, wait. No, now I'm speaking, because I have to go now. So I just want to get one. Now, all this came when Stopspamming tried to respond to you saying, why do we talk about Islam? And then he said, oh, we like to question it, and then we went on this tangent. So this is my response to, why do we talk about Islam, okay? Islam does not belong to Muslims. Muhammad does not belong to Muslims. The Quran does not belong to Muslims. They are human constructs, and anyone can use them in any way they please. So if I would like to discuss and investigate and research and even make fun of or mock or insult Islam, it is entirely my prerogative. It does not belong to you. It does not belong to any Muslims. These are human constructs, and they are everyone's heritage as human beings.
How about the
So-
history? Could you analyze that?
Too bad. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. You don't have ownership of what the Abbasis did or the Umayyas did. They are everyone's human history, and everyone can look at them and discuss them and talk about them equally. So this idea that Muhammad is the special property of Muslims, what a ridiculous idea. Anything belongs to anyone if it's all human heritage and all human constructs.
No,
it's all
but-
concepts and history.
Okay. I'll give a personal reason as to why.
Well, okay, now again,
All right,
again,
now I have to go. So I'll see you later, guys.
Klingschor has to go. Let's let Mohan come back.
Does you call it as a ridiculous? So that the ridiculous who doesn't believe in any faith, he believes believe on his earth or on his island. Let us say that's what he believes. So you worship your island, Stops? What do you worship? The earth or the tree or what?
Well,
I don't worship anything. Why do I need to worship something? I'm
So
a
what
happy
do you ask?
person.
Okay. You ask whether any messenger has sent to Iceland or not. That's your question.
No,
was
the question
Right,
was,
right,
where
right.
are all the
So-
languages?
so
Why does
I
it
will-
make sense? We are trying to find the sense in this, because it does not make sense to me.
So do you have any research about Islam, first of all?
Oh dear, yes.
Yeah.
Which case of that? Could you tell me which topic, which subjects, which the tradition of Islamic or the cultures or there is many parts of Islam, the faith.
What do you want to know now? Do you want to know all the books I've read? Do you want to know
What the properties of Islam?
now or what?
No. What the advantages and the properties or the case? Okay, let us say the case of Islam. The cases of Islam.
What do you mean cases?
Okay, well, okay, yeah, there might be a language issue here.
Okay.
We've studied. Okay,
Okay, Steve.
We have all studied this stuff considerably. There's always someone who knows more, and there's always someone who knows less, right?
I'm an ex-Muslim, so I have quite a vast knowledge of Islam.
Yeah.
Klingschor studies Islam at a university. He's got quite a knowledge.
But
Stop Spam and Atheismo are both amateur Islamologists, if you will. So, you know, everybody here has read at least Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Tafsir, Ibn Kathir, Al-Tabari, Sunan Dawood. We've read some things about the Ithnai Ashar Imams. So we're quite well versed in all these subjects.
I've read the Quran about a zillion times, both in English and in Arabic. So, but here's the thing. That doesn't. Some person was like criticizing the show, and he says, "Oh yeah, these people, they think they're experts." I would never say that. I'm a student of the material. There's obviously a vast library, you know. Nobody could ever read it all. They'd die of old age, right?
But
So-
okay, you know that reported by Abu Huraira, I think so. I'm not sure about that, but there is one hadith for Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, that who in the West, or who Banu al-Asfar, or what's called the Greeks people, or Hercules people, or what's called whatever it is, those in the end, they will not in the end, and the many centuries going the next, or the many times behind that, they will convert and they will revert to Islam. Why we call that revert? Because the human being, let me tell you, the human being,
We know this, Muhammad. We know this.
let him talk.
You know the al-fitra. Have you heard about al-fitra?
Of course, we've heard about
Yes,
it,
of course.
but we all think it's nonsense, obviously. But we have heard about it.
How do you analyze that?
Because it's a baseless
Well,
claim.
I analyze it as nonsense.
It's a baseless claim. They just say it's something that happens, for example, in the Quran constantly, Muhammad. They say they make a declaration that this is the way it is. They provide no backup for it, and then they ask, how could he have known? Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? I mean, okay, it's like if I say, I'm imagining a blue tabby cat. How could I have known? Well, it's something that I just envisioned. There's no connection between it and anything substantial. So, you know, all these concepts you're talking about, you know, you keep coming back to, well, how could we have known this? How did we know to call it reversion unless there was? I mean, this is all just internal dogma to a story, a narrative that was created by people, unless there's some way you can demonstrate that it really is of divine origin.
No. It's not, because the Quran is holy. Quran, and it's a book of Allah.
Well, then
The words of Allah.
You say that, but
The words of Allah.
you say that, but I wonder if you've even for example.
There is one surah, Inna anzalna lahu dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidun.
But because it says that, okay, that doesn't make it true. Do you understand? So, for instance, if I then know that the Quran wasn't collected during Muhammad's lifetime, and I know that there are some serious doubts about that this scripture is actually the stuff that Muhammad said, then it doesn't really matter what's in the book. Okay, the book can say whatever it wants. We're looking for evidence outside of this book, okay, so that everybody can come to the same conclusion without having taken the word of the book on its face value.
Yeah.
Do you understand what that means?
Yes.
Can I just one thing about the reason why we, for instance, you said, why do you talk about Muslims? And what you fail to see is that for every one of us, it's something different, right? It's a personal reason. For instance, Klingschor is just he studies Islam, so that's his life. That's what he does. That's what he does for work. Okay.
I've been talking to him.
Can I finish, please? Can I finish? I, for instance, am an apostate, murtad, yani. And of course, we know that the punishment for apostates in Islam is death. So I have a reasonable, I have my own reason for talking out or speaking up against Islam, because, well, the religion says that I should be killed, and a lot of people believe that. And so I have every right to say, to call Islam out and to talk about it.
But Islam never
Stop spamming. Excuse me?
But Islam never kill or advise to kill any human being unless he change, because he, in case like you, wal-iyadu billah, munafiq.
So why did they try and kill me?
Wait a minute. How am I a munafiq? I never believed in this. Excuse me, let me finish. You've just called me a hypocrite, even though I have never believed Islam and said otherwise, or not believed it and said otherwise. When I stopped believing in Islam, I came out and I said I don't believe it anymore. It was a lie. I was lied to. So how am I munafiqun when I never hid what I believed inside? What I believed inside, I said out loud. And that's the reason Islam wants to kill me, not because I was on the inside believing that Islam wasn't true, but still saying that I was a Muslim. That's a nifaq. Okay?
You know who kidding on the prophets, not only Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Any human can make a joke or made a joke on Sahaba, or not on Sahaba of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and even though the prophets Ibrahim and their family, their friends, their Sahaba who believe him, anybody make a joke must get killed or must get.
So you believe that? So that's your stance is that if I say Abraham was a goat herder,
to introduce Islam in a different way, tourism and such a kind of that.
Okay, well, answer my question. Answer my question. Okay, if I say Abraham liked to suck on goats' nipples, just to say, okay, you think I should be killed for that? That's your position.
It's not my honor to speak anymore right here because you didn't respect my faith, and I'm not going to. I'm just declaring right now.
Okay, so you just think we should be killed, but we're disrespecting your religion.
You disrespect all faith
but
and
just
all.
Said we should be killed. That's much more disrespectful than anything I could say about any dead person. You understand what you've done is
because
mainly a crime in a lot of civilized societies, that you threaten people that you will kill them, or that you think that they should be killed. Maybe not that you think they should be killed, but do you understand that that's much more offensive than anything anybody could say about a dead person? Right? You know, wanting somebody killed for a joke is much more offensive to normal people than any joke anybody should make. Do you understand? I mean, do you see that, or do you not?
The instincts or the fitrah make a human being full respect and respects each other and ethic and full knowledge, not on that level. That's what we call.
But you don't respect. You've just said I should be killed for no other reason than either I'm an apostate or.
Oh, there's a big reason. There is a big reason for that. Not only small or a little reason. You know what did you made of that? What did you made? It's kind of not only nifaq. It's kind of a big terrible or horrible thing that you are made. You just came and you brought.
Well, it's nice to know that that's, and I quite frankly
you brought Ali. That's your level. That's your level, and you disrespect our faith, and this is what you deserve. That's what you deserve.
Oh, thank you. I'm quite glad to disrespect the faith that lets a human being think that it's okay to kill somebody else.
No.
Joke.
You trying to hold the Western. You trying to hold the Western to show them what Islam and related to terrorism and related to crimes and related nothing without.
You've just said that we should be killed for jokes. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. You said it for me.
The crimes and the cult is very dangerous, and there is things Allah will never forgive anybody. If anybody who made that things. Mushrik, he is a mushrik, and all we do believe that whether he got a crime or not, that's how it is. But our Islam never advised us to kill anybody, and even the animals.
So why was I nearly killed?
Pardon me? How?
Why was I almost killed?
Muhammad, he's referring to a story where a bunch of gunmen ran up into a hotel where he was, and people were being killed left and right.
Where you have been?
In Kabul.
In which country?
In Kabul.
Kuala Lumpur? Kabul,
Afghanistan.
Yeah, see, basically who invading or the occupations who wanna destroy.
You are such a dishonest prick.
Hey, no, I understand your frustration. Not allowed. Not allowed.
Yes, that's what you deserve. Well, that's what you deserve. You wanna make a racism.
Wait, Muhammad, Stock was not a soldier. Okay, he was traveling. He was not a soldier.
Gizmo, I think that what you're doing right now, this guy should be cut out of this conversation because
this is the one person we want to talk to. Is the person who thinks that we deserve to die. This is the core of the matter.
No. You you didn't get me. You
zealous
didn't get me.
bigot who jumps to conclusions by just, if you mention something, he has got his mind set up and he has got everything set up.
What's your purpose there? Answer me. What's your purpose right there? What did you do there? Any travel there? Any enjoying part? You can enjoy any. You have all the world. You can go anywhere. And you are Western. You have Sydney. You have Australia. You have California. You have Los Angeles. Anywhere you can go. Why Afghanistan? And you know it's a terrible place. And there is a war between two. One who wanna get the one who wanna destruction. The people. Have you ever seen some movies related to Afghan?
Yeah.
How including the Hollywood reflection of movies or producer the movies? How did he view the Islam on it?
Okay, wait, hold on,
Obviously, it's disagree with us and ignore us. And do you have a reality about them? I've been 16 years.
Mohammed, please.
In Iraq. Let me talk.
No,
please.
because you asked stop a question and you didn't. Well, let's. I want to know the answers.
Okay. Okay.
Let's stop. Tell you what he was actually doing there. What business took him there?
Okay, tell.
He's not interested in what.
No, I'm interested.
He wants to feed his monkey. That's all he wants to do.
For the record, stop. Just what were you doing there?
I was helping revive and rebuild the infrastructure. I was building up a telephone network.
To help whom?
I'm sorry, what?
To help whom? Or stop. I'm asking this stop. Wherever he disrespects me, but what I have my respect. I have my respect.
What is this with respect?
I'm a Muslim, alhamdulillah. We have ethic and we have a honor and we also have a tradition.
No, you don't. No, you don't. You've just said that people should be killed for making jokes. That's no kind of respect and no kind of all this stuff. It's nonsense, and we're not. I mean, I'm not gonna let you say that and get away with it because you've just told us that you are interested in people being killed for making jokes.
I'm not interested, first of all. I'm not inviting to anybody has to kill, but who make a joke on our prophet and our prophet who bring the holy, not Quran, and even Jesus, who Moses and Ibrahim, not only Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, all the prophets and many prophets.
That's what you believe. I believe they were all liars.
Any of them has responsibility to advise us. Okay, so those who going to help us, and how could we make joke about them? How could you figure out those who came to help you from the hell you are living in, from the hell? Have you ever?
This is your problem. This is not what we believe. We believe that people lied. Okay, and so therefore, that's why we
think about the date. Just think about the date, and after the life, who will gonna ask you on the judgment day? That's it.
Muhammad, we don't think the judgment day is going to happen. Muhammad, I don't think and look, I know things have gotten heated, and I apologize to you for that, okay? Because you are. No, wait a sec. But here's the thing: when you say these things, you have to understand that and I think I speak for the others on the panel, I don't believe that when I die and the last person for my funeral takes a certain number of paces away, that two angels are going to come and ask me questions and show me a picture of the Prophet Muhammad and ask me who he is.
No,
if I answer incorrectly, that I'll go to the grave and I'll have snakes biting me with poisonous venom. They'll be biting my corpse until I wait the day. I don't think that's going to happen. So whatever argument you're trying to build on that, it's a moot point.
It wasn't like
what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I'm saying those who this snack and those angels gonna ask Muslims, and the mushrik will never ask directly to hell. You know what I'm saying?
All right. I know what you're saying. It's not the first time I've heard it, but we don't think that's actually going to happen.
Okay. That part you couldn't imagine how it's. But believe me, if there any person going to or coming from the dead, will explain to you. And nobody has made that, but Allah who did us and who reverted us to the life once again, and that mentioned in the Quran, and you will see it. But what I'm doing here, and I'm gonna advise, and with this guy Ali, I will never replay him any words, and ignore him exactly. And for stop, what's your purpose last? I have no time, please. I have to go pray Fajr right here. So stop. I've been in Iraq, and I have a lot of ideas about what the international companies are doing there, and what the purpose of the companies right there. So you are in terrible place, and you says that they want to kill me and I want to help them. You want to help whom? And the purpose why you are here? You told me I'm going to construct the building right there. So you construct for whom? For the people, or for the soldiers who killed the population of that place, whatever they're in, whether in Afghan, Pakistan, Iraq, Syria,
well, it would have to be for the people, because the soldiers already have radios. So the telephone, if he's building telephone lines, it could only be to help ordinary people. And then there's these guys who say, oh well, thanks for the help. We swear revenge. We're gonna kill you for helping us. It's really upsetting, Mohammed.
No, I'm not interested in this. This guy's he's insulting me. He jumps to conclusions just because I say something, and he doesn't even have the integrity to first ask. That's it. Get lost.
So, what do you think about Bush democracy, or Obama, or the White House? Oh, by the way, the bloodsucker. What do you think about them?
Look,
well, we think they're better than you. That's for sure. At least I do. In my opinion.
You Ali go to hell. You go to hell. That this you.
If there is one, if there is one, and the choices are being with you, I think I'll go.
They are waiting to catch you. Definitely you are
really
there.
appreciate.
But I want to advise all those.
We appreciate the advice. We really do.
Goodbye.
We
Get
best
lost.
advice. But let me tell you, I think there's a problem, because you believe in Jannah and Gehenna, right? The heaven and hell, yeah.
Yeah, right.
I don't think that the party in heaven is going to last very long, because what will happen is the guys next door in Valhalla, while you are just having, the believers are having sex with the Hurries every day, and they're partying and drinking, having fun and relaxing, they're getting kind of soft. But the guys next door in Valhalla, the Vikings, who have been dead for centuries and centuries, they've been fighting, and their wounds closed. So these guys are tough. They're at the top of their game.
Why?
So if they manage to get into, they'll mop the Viking dead will mop the floor with the Muslim dead. So I think that your party isn't going to last for eternity the way you think. You understand what I'm saying? Okay,
Jim. Yeah, I got your point. So, what was the difference between both of who trying to defend their family and their population and their faith, and who trying to make party and having sex and going to? There's many things Allah say. There's many parts. What's the difference between those? First of all, the difference between those who work by way of ikhlas, or the way the straight path, and the others they hang around, they drugs, drinking, what's called this weed and cocaine, many things. Allah Azza wa Jal, Almighty God, He prevents or mentioned by not only Holy Quran. There's
yes, if I want to hear this, I go to the mosque. Get this guy out of here.
Okay, Mohammed. You have to go.
I wanna thank only Jane right here, because we've been talking last Ramadan. I think so. Do you remember that? I give introduction about I am the shame of this stop, because he held the bloodsucker, and Ali, you are in the hell. That's it.
Okay. Well, it still beats Kabul. Thank you for your call, Mohammed, and thank you for your advice. Take care.
What stupid idiots! My goodness. I mean, he is the reason why we are not Muslims.
No, but that's
Atheismo. Look, I understand what you're saying, but however, when a person says that you should be killed, okay, at some point you've got to think, okay, this can't be a fair go at this point, because I mean, this guy is the question I feel like you were doing this in the wrong, like, yes, when the Muslim is on and they're not saying you should be killed, all respect to that person, and it's a good time to stop and push us back when we get heated. But when somebody comes straight up and says, okay, yes, you should be killed for being an apostate, wal-iyazu billah, you're a hypocrite, I mean, you've just let some guy come in and insult us, and then you've held their arms back and said, "Oh, you can't go back."
You know why, Ali? That was the best guest we've ever had because he was the most honest guest we've ever had. How many times have we had Muslim callers come in and they look us right in the eye and lie to us? That person told the truth. That person,
I agree to that.
He believed it. That person told the truth. If you watch this on YouTube later, Mr. Al-Nakib, thank you.
Did I hail?
You are the most honest guest to ever appear on the Jinn and Tonic Show. That was exactly the person that we want to let talk.
I mean, right? We did let him talk, and what he said was well enough to. I mean, whatever. I'm just saying that. I think that when Stopspamming went after him a little bit there, and you said. You know, you called them back on it. I mean, after you threaten somebody after you say somebody should be killed, I mean, there's really no reply from the other side that should warrant any kind of, you know what I mean? Do you see the point?
How prevalent is that attitude? If we refuse to talk
very
with them,
prevalent.
are we refusing to talk with who knows what kind of a cross section?
Well, I'm not saying refuse to talk with it. I'm just saying that okay, but respect goes out of the window at this point. I mean. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay, let him on, leave him on, but don't call somebody back when they call him an idiot or a hooligan or uncivilized because it's the truth. I mean, this guy just said we should be killed. Yeah. Okay, let him talk, but don't call people back when they go after him a little bit. I mean, he did just say we should be killed for making jokes.
You know what? I still feel we need to. I don't think it excuses our conduct. I mean, I got very sarcastic at the end, but I mean, the thing is, I don't know. I don't think he was listening very much. But
I just get very angry.
I want to know. To me, a conversation with about these attitudes, it begins when you have someone who is honest enough to say that you deserve to die.
Yeah, but hang on. I tried to be logical. I tried to be reasoning. I tried to reason with him. I tried to drive him in a direction. Kling wouldn't let me. I would have had the whole thing over in 1 minute, but because everybody interrupted, I had to start from beginning all the time again. But the thing what I wanted to bring through to him is that his Quran is lying to him, that there is no such thing. And that is why I went after him. And then I just got pissed off. I get so angry if I go and I say, okay, I'm trying to help, I'm trying to replace infrastructure, I'm trying to aid people for humanitarian reasons, and they immediately make this jump and say, yeah, but you were the occupying force and you deserved it. This is when I get so pissed off. He didn't ask for 1 second, he didn't hesitate for 1 second. He immediately came out with his bigoted ideas, and this is when I switched off and I said, no, listen, get lost.
Yeah, and then his other thing, why do you have to be in Kabul? There's lots of places you can go. Why? I mean, you were standing right next to someone who had their head blown off by a high-powered rifle round, and he's like, well, you should have stayed out of Kabul. It's not your neighborhood. And yet...
She wasn't wearing that skirt. She wouldn't have been raped.
Exactly,
exactly. I'm just saying.
And I'm sorry, I came this close when he said, well, Afghanistan is a terrible place and Iraq is a terrible place. I came this close to saying, well, of course they are. They're filled with Muslims. But I held myself back, okay? So I bite my tongue just as much as I tell you guys. And, of course, if I had said so, I would have immediately retracted and said, oh, I'm just joking. But, no, I mean, I understand why you got upset with them. But to me, since that's the very attitude that we're worried about, that's where the conversation begins. To me, all the discussions we've had in the past, it's been the same. I mean, okay, it's like chasing all of our Muslim guests, trying to get them to admit that they feel the way that guest came right out and said. And think about it. Think of all the Muslim guests we've had on. It's always the same damn thing. It's always, do you think this? Oh, well, evasiveness. Oh, well, no, I don't know what you've heard, but that's not really what we think. I mean, in my opinion, so many of the conversations we had, they never started. They never got off the ground because either, not because we were too squeamish to talk about it, but because the guests just took all the more controversial aspects of the doctrine and the scripture and the religious culture and swept it all under the rug to make it seem like the religion of peace, okay?
But we all know that there was any kind of impact that we made on him?
No.
No.
Exactly. Do you think there's a chance of anybody making any impact? No. I think this is a deluded guy who is going to stay like this for the rest of his life.
Plus atheismo.
That's why I wanted to hear him talk more, is so that we can know, certainly, is this guy bad to the core, or is he someone who's just plain brainwashed?
No, see, here's the thing, right? At some point, a conversation is no longer viable with a person. When a person says they want to kill you, then the conversation is pretty much over and the fist fight starts, or, you know, the gunfight starts, or whatever. Because you're not, I mean, there's such a thing as giving somebody a place to speak and spout off a bunch of hateful shit. And then, you know, really at that point, it's not just having a conversation. You're just letting some asshole go off about some stuff. Hey, you could get them to say the stuff, and then you kick them off, and you drag them into the mud and talk about how big a piece of crap they are. But you don't let them sit there and talk for 20 minutes and tell people how he wants to kill people who make jokes and things like that. I mean, at some point, the conversation with somebody like that is over. And to me, once they say, hey, I want to kill you, it's time to stop talking.
But
I mean,
let's face it, even he pulled his punches or didn't know the doctrine or whatever, because let's face it, you don't have to make a joke. If you apostate, that's it. You might be given a chance to go back, but you don't have to do anything. You don't have. I mean, if a non-Muslim is spreading corruption in the land, he can be killed. But for apostates, you don't have any further offenses you need to commit. You know, there's plenty of evidence. So that's, maybe he doesn't know the Hadith very well, but that was the one place where
he knew that. He called me munafiqeen, and we all know what should happen to the munafiqeen. I mean, it's hilarious, obviously, because I certainly wasn't a munafiq, but you know, he knew I should be killed. He just maybe wasn't sure what hadith or what part said, but he was sure that apostate should be killed. I mean, this guy from the beginning thinks that I should be killed. The conversation's over. What else are we going to say to this guy? I mean, that's
not a matter of reaching him. It's just if this is what they think, then it's I don't know. How prevalent is this attitude really? When you really get down to it, how prevalent is the attitude? Well,
it's highly prevalent. I mean, it's very prevalent.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, every single you know, he's like, oh, you should watch the Dean show. And I say, what? So I can watch a bunch of people say that what you just said isn't the real Islam? But so I can get up there and watch Adam Dean or that other guy say, oh, you heard wrong. You heard wrong. That's not the way it is.
Yeah, maybe he should watch the Dean show.
Yeah. I mean, how many times do we hear religion of peace, and we say, what? It's the religion of peace. What? I can't hear you over the explosions and the screams and the gunfire. You know, it's the religion of peace.
Hey, you know what's funny? Is we were just talking about Muslims yelling oppressed when they're being dicks.
Yeah.
And this guy just came on here and said he was being disrespected after he told us we should be killed.
Yeah, okay.
Like, way to make the goddamn point, huh?
Oh, my. Like his monocle drops into his tea. Oh, my. I never... Anyway, Godless Libertarian, welcome to the program. What do you have for us? I'll be away from keyboard, but I'm still listening.
All right, can you hear me? Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, just thinking about the most recent caller, and I personally, I don't know any Muslims who have deconverted, but yet, you know, obviously Ali, the Arab Atheist show, it does happen. So I just want to know, how does that happen?
Sorry, how does what happen?
Is that question to me specifically or to the panel?
Just to the panel. I mean, I know you guys, you know, interact. I know everyone on the panel that interacts, you know, outside of the show. And I mean, has it happened before? How does it happen? Like, is it you know, ridicule? Is it all the crazy stuff in the hadith? Is it debunking the scientific miracles? You know, how does it happen? Because there's a lot of people who I would love to, you know, start that process. Especially in Afghanistan. I've been there too.
Oh, okay. No, I think it's a combination of all. If I'll take the first shot here. With me, what it was is just being interested and then hearing nonsense. And wherever you start digging, you find out that it's misinformation. So people who are deluded are listening to information that is not true, and that's when you start thinking about this and you start talking, and then it just develops. So the main interest is to provide a platform for people to be able to ask questions and to go one level deeper than the Fox News narrative, and just to be able to provide really well-founded information. And it's also stimulant for me to find out more about it.
There was another joke that I really bit my tongue on. When he said he was going to say his Fajr prayer, I have joked in the past with a Muslim saying, it's morning, don't you have to say your Fajr prayer?
I don't get that joke. Say again?
Yeah, that
Fajr.
went completely over my head.
Fajr. You know, Ollie, I thought that you would get that, unless I'm thinking of the wrong word.
You
Fajr.
might be.
Isn't that I thought that, oh, never mind.
What?
Maybe I've just completely... The guy got really offended. So
What are you trying? What is the joke in English? Maybe I can make out what you're trying to say.
Instead of Fajr prayer, I said, don't you have to make it to your Fajr prayer?
Fajr is in. Is that what's that word mean in your mind?
Morning.
I have heard that Fajr means like private parts, and it's a term.
Fudge? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Fajr. Oh, so my poor pronunciation ruined it, right?
Right. Well, because and also that is a word from archaic Arabic. Like that's what Muhammad uses, I think, in a few hadiths. Where today you wouldn't say that, and so with the bad pronunciation and the lack of use of the word, it can be a little confusing. But anyways,
never mind. I'll edit that out.
All right.
Anyway.
Yeah. So I mean, I can only speak my personal experience. I left Islam mainly because I left the Muslim world and I came to America and just education and life in general. And then I mean it was a progression, kind of. It was little doubt here and there that showed up, and after a while, and then philosophy in school and my own reading. Then I found out that hey, I really didn't believe any of this.
Okay, but was there a time where you would have been of the same mindset as our last caller?
So not doctrinally. So for instance, I wouldn't have said the joke about the prophets thing, mainly because I wasn't asked. So I really don't know if I would have said that. However, I was of the mindset that the West is the enemy, things like that. And so who knows? Maybe I would have said exactly the same thing. But I definitely had the attitude that everybody who's not a Muslim was was going to hell and all this other stuff, and you'll all deserve to burn in hell and things like that. And so, I definitely was close, if not completely there.
Yeah.
But then again, I mean, you have to realize as well that I came here when I was 12.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of my ideas were cartoonish anyways.
Yeah.
And so, it wasn't really... I mean, this guy seems to be like 17 or 18. I certainly wouldn't have said that when I was 17 or 18. I don't think.
Okay, if you'd been switched at birth with this guy or something like that, and he had come to the States and you'd stayed in a, do you think that you might be calling and he might be co-hosting?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, honestly, I like to think to myself like, hey, if I was in Egypt, I would still have become an atheist and forgotten about all this stuff. But honestly, there's really no good reason why I would think that. When I think about it, I fear that if it wasn't for me coming here, I would have probably been that guy.
Yeah, but have you ever argued with somebody and showed them arguments that got them on the road?
So right. So I make videos in Arabic. And I get a lot of people who leave Islam because of my arguments that I make on the videos. I think that a lot of it is people who are already thinking about these things on their own, and then they hear other people who thought this way and kind of get a little bit more courage to investigate a little further. And so for the most part, I think that people who are leaving Islam are people who are already looking outwards. They're reading philosophy most likely. They're on the internet a lot, talking to people of different backgrounds. They're checking out other ideas and things like that. Those are the people that I see who are leaving Islam, is people who are already kind of thinking on their own in a way.
So a lot of, and then what happens is they get reassurances from hearing other people and listening to stories of other people who had been through the same thing. And so while it's probably most likely not just the arguments that we're making, it's that they're already on their own looking to, looking outside, then some of these arguments will come into play and things like that. So that's at least been my experience with my, within my involvement in making videos and things like that and arguing with people. It's never, like for instance, let me put it to you this way. There was one girl that came on our show one time, the panel show that we do in Arabic, and we had pretty much the same exact conversation that we had with this guy now, except at the front end, she was talking about Islam being peace and loving and all this and all that, and it had just been after the whole video controversy. What's the name of that damn video? Innocence of Muslims. That's right. And so I was telling her, we came to the end. I felt like we hit an impasse. She wasn't really listening anymore. And I asked her just flat out, because she kept saying Muhammad was peace, blah, 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 this and that. And I kept bringing her examples, and she would just say, oh, that's not true. That's not true. I said, okay, so let me just ask you a question. Do you think that the people who made the movie should be put in jail? She said, honestly, I think they should be killed. And so right at that moment, I just let her go. I kicked her off the program, and we moved on. 2 weeks later, she became an atheist. She
really?
She thought a lot about what was said, and she realized that she couldn't believe that she herself would say things like that after she had just spent like 20 minutes telling us about how peaceful Islam was.
But you Dillahunted her. You just kicked her off the show?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's over at that point. I mean, she just spent 20 minutes telling us how peaceful the damn religion is, and then she said somebody should be killed for making a cartoon.
Yeah.
And so it's over at that point. I mean, see you later. Goodbye. Go talk to yourself somewhere else.
Yeah, that never ceases to amaze me. Is there an Arabic word for irony? Can you think of one?
No.
Okay, there's the problem. There's the problem. They don't see. It's like, confess that ours is the religion of peace, or we will hurt you.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess it can happen in a sense, but certainly not right away. She didn't do this right away. It was, from what I understand, because I only heard about it secondhand before I talked to her myself later on, that she had taken a couple of weeks before she decided to come to this decision to leave Islam. And actually, she told Aziz, who's currently in jail for blasphemy in Kuwait, she was in contact with him after 2 weeks, telling him that she had left Islam. And then I later on happened to talk to her through other channels. But so it does happen. Sometimes the arguments do work. Maybe not right away, but
Right. So stop spamming. Next time I'm in Afghanistan, which will probably be soon, and then some idiot tells the Afghans that we're working with that I'm an atheist, and then they give me all their bullshit. Did you ever respond back to the Afghans, or you were afraid they would kill you?
No, I was there. How can I say this? I was sent there to help with the infrastructure, okay, for the Ministry of Telecommunications.
Infrastructure. I help take people out.
Okay, well there you go.
So I was in the Serena, and I don't know if you heard about the Serena, and that was the first attack on it when they killed the receptionist and all the people in the spa because they heard that there were topless massages and things like that. So that's why the Taliban came in there, because they thought you're not allowed to have topless massages in our country, and that's why we're going to kill everybody. That's the reason why they came in there. Then there was no reason to ever contact anybody after that, because the whole project was cancelled. They took people from Pakistan or something from India who continued. The rest was done remotely from Abu Dhabi. Because then I went back to Abu Dhabi and to Dubai, and then between those two cities we did this remotely. We had some people on the ground who were prepared to take the risk, but nobody from UK states or Europe was allowed to go there.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk about religion while you're over there.
Oh no, I didn't.
No, I'm talking to godless.
Yeah, it is tempting. I avoided it last time, but I was biting my tongue almost till it bled. I don't know if I can don't know if I can do that again, so I wanted to come armed with, succinct, like right back at you, in your face,
But are you only in
arguments
Kabul?
that you maybe in your experiences that really get to them, get them angry and thinking.
I say you just focus on what you got to do. I mean, if you did manage to convince someone, you just get them killed.
No, but what is funny is if you work with Muslims on a daily basis, it really starts getting to you, because every time you say, okay, can you go and organize that? And then he will say, yes, I will do it, inshallah. And then,
and he doesn't fucking do it.
That's not what you want to hear. You want to hear, yes, it will be finished tomorrow, and not inshallah. I mean, this is, wow.
That is the ultimate proof that God exists within the minds of human beings. Because when someone says, inshallah, if God wills it, what they really mean is, if I feel like it.
Yeah,
That's
mañana.
No, I'm way ahead of you there. If they say inshallah, it says if I bloody feel like it, which I won't.
So God is libertarian. Sorry, are you only in Kabul?
No, I can tell you where I was last time. I was in Ghazni.
Okay.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah. No, because I was thinking
That's a description of all of Afghanistan.
Which place it was, because they regularly kidnapped technicians who were readjusting the antennas. And they used to kidnap them and then used to release them only against ransom.
No, that's just a money-making scheme, probably.
Yeah, because they need to buy weapons.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. But what about if Ali is still there? Just want to know.
He sometimes goes into stealth mode, then he's
no, I'm here.
But you don't see him. It's just camouflage.
It's the cloak that I got from when I was a Muslim. It was one of the crown miracles. Okay, I'm sorry. This joke is terrible. Let's just go ahead. Yes, I am here.
What Egyptian celebrity do you think, if they came out and said they were atheists, would make more people? Would it cause a domino effect? I'm going to think Adel Imam.
No. Honestly, if anybody,
and then I do have to go with that.
They would be killed. Nobody will have that effect. The only thing that will happen is everybody will turn against them and they will want them killed. But nobody will leave because of it, in my opinion.
When was the last time you were there?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't even remember. It was so long ago. Maybe 9 years, something like that. It's been a while. All
right. Well, I'm just. I will say that I think before I leave, I think you're way pessimistic, and it will just take a few high notable people to do it publicly, and it'll cause a domino effect. So I was there.
I think you know what I think. I think that if prominent people were to deconvert, I mean, you said celebrities. I'm not sure if you meant celebrities as in entertainment or celebrities just famous people in general.
Entertainment. Adel Imam is a famous comedian, actually.
Yeah, but they'll do the Hollywood treatment like right wingers do to Hollywood. It's like, yeah, watch their movies, but don't you dare take on their beliefs. They're a bunch of commies and so forth. I think that it would be, at the very least, the beginning of a smear campaign where they were turned into a boogeyman. It's like, see, this person, they live this decadent celebrity lifestyle, now they've become westernized, and the Zionists are now controlling them, blah, blah, blah. I think that the muftis already have a speech prepared in that event.
Yeah, I think you give them way too much credit.
Yeah.
See, I happen to think that it's the other way around. I happen to think that nobody's going to come out. Let's just assume that some of them are atheists and they could come out. It's just not safe enough to come out at this point. I think that if there's maybe a base, they would come out, and then if there's a base supporting these people, then maybe there'll be some effects. But until there's at least a minimum, anybody who does it, it's committing suicide. I mean, they will most likely be, jailed or kicked out of the country or assassinated. And certainly, I don't think that
it would have an effect that, you know, you'd see people leaving Islam because Adil Imam left Islam. I don't, you know, I just don't see that. But hey, maybe I am pessimistic, so I'll leave that there.
All right, yeah, but I do have to go. Thank you, gentlemen.
Take care. Okay. Now we have Mario, who I thought we had another guy who was going to decapitate us, but no, he's an ex-Muslim. He wants to talk about his experience. Welcome to the program.
Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm fine, thanks. I had a couple of glasses of wine, so you've got to forgive me.
No, not a problem. Not a problem.
Okay, well, I'm also an ex-Muslim, but I was pretty much an atheist from day one because I never believed. I was brought up around Islam, but I always thought it was nonsense, and that was from an early age. I never had a revelation like a lot of people had late in their lives, and they finally realized it was all bullshit. I knew it was bullshit. I mean, for me, it was so obvious it was bullshit, and the reason why I knew it was bullshit was because there was so much hypocrisy around me. I saw everyone's a hypocrite when it comes to their religion, and for that reason alone, I thought to myself, why the fuck should I have to follow it? No one else is, and yet at the same time, those people who don't want to follow it, they love to you know, implement the rules anyway. It's all bollocks. I always knew it was bollocks. That's just my perspective of it. Yeah, it's a Mario. And by the way, the GOFMT means greatest of all motherfucking time.
I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm thinking of now is when we had the our friend caller in Muhammad, and he says I'd greet you, but I can't because you know how it is. He said something like,
what a dick. I mean, honestly, what the fuck, man? Don't say it, but don't be an asshole about it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, at the time, I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's like, I really would like to be friendly, but not allowed. I really
but
wonder.
You're so dirty, I can't do it. It's like, I want to say hi, but you're just so damn dirty that it would...
But
like,
don't
you either.
disrespect me. Don't you dare disrespect me. What nerve you have. I mean, it reminds me, did you guys watch the Sherlock Holmes movies that they're making now with, what's his name? And they have his brother, and he's very eccentric when it comes to germs. So the guy's like, pleased to meet you. He says, no, and he refuses to shake the guy's hand just like that. That's what we just had on. We just had Sherlock Holmes' brother on. We're like, Salam alaikum. No, love, get out of here. Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, I still wonder if he had been switched at birth with someone else. Would he believe that? Or would he be like that? I would say obviously not. Maybe he would have been sort of prone to, I don't know. Who knows? But it's like, oh, no, I can't say hello to you. Ah, God damn. I mean, God.
I still don't know what bloodsucker I hailed.
Probably George Bush or something, because of Afghanistan, maybe. I don't know. I mean, who... All right. I think this guy's going to keep giving us off on tangents now.
No, I'm sorry. That was kind of rude of me. I totally ignored Zamario's contribution.
It's fine.
Yeah. You can understand we're kind of reeling from that last one. I was really hoping you'd be another person who threatened to decapitate us.
To his point, though...
It's weird. I mean, you can't argue against logic, can you? So... You got people coming in like, yeah, you shouldn't do this, you have to follow faith, and then they're probably fucking over afterwards. Yeah. Bullshit.
Well, yeah, and then the thing is, I'm learning some Chinese, and in Chinese, the way the word Islam is written, it's called Hui Jiao, and it's written with the characters for circular and teaching, right? Now, it's just a coincidence, because it's named after the Hui people, which is a tribe of early Muslim converts way out to the west in China. You know, there's some Chinese Muslims. It's taken for just a phonetic character of how they pronounce their own name. So it's just a coincidence, but it's a pretty funny coincidence that the name of Islam in Chinese is circular reasoning. Because I mean, we had the classic example. For a moment, we achieved the same greatness that the Atheist Experience show did. Is that we get a caller on, and he's like, "Well, the Quran's true because the Quran says it's true." Oh, well, have you really read the Quran? Do you realize how many times it says it's true, and in what brilliant ways it says that it's true? Do you realize the structure and the many ways that it says that it's true? Yeah. And then, I don't know. I mean, maybe, who knows? Maybe he's just really never heard a counterpoint. But he called in. I'm grateful for that, because, I mean, it's been a long time since we've had just...
Going back to the point that Mario made about never believing in Islam and knowing his bollocks from day one. After I became an atheist, I realized that I never actually believed any of this stuff, and that I had always just kind of not thought about it and put my trust in the adults telling me that it was true. But I never actually really believed it. And after I became an atheist, I realized that I'd always thought it was bullshit. So I don't know if you believed that you always knew it was bullshit, and you knew that you always knew that it was bullshit, or you only came to that conclusion after you had formally said to yourself you were an atheist, and then you realized that it was always all just bullshit. It's kind of a question. Yeah, right.
I just knew from day one. I mean, it just made sense to me. It made sense to me that what everyone believed, it made no sense. It was kind of obvious. And then obviously the fact that there's so many different religions and they all can't be right. I mean, all these things, I mean, straight off the bat, they make sense. And no one who is religious really wants to tackle that. They want to go on about all this other stuff, how the world was created and everything else. And yet some of that straight obvious stuff, which is right in front of you, they can't answer. And they don't want to answer because it's just too confusing and it goes against their beliefs and also what is true to their beliefs. And so it's just, you know what I mean? So I'm just happy within myself. I know what's true. I know what's real. And what's real is something we don't know, funnily enough.
Have any of you seen that two of the Phelps granddaughters left Westboro Baptist Church? It was like...
yeah, I think so.
They're still on the compound, or?
No, they're gone. I mean,
No,
they're
living
off. I've been wanting to read some of the interviews that they've been doing with them because I wondered how long did the doubt set in, and did they feel at any point like they were prisoners, or did they feel, or not prisoners, because I'm sure they did come and go. It was a seal. The Phelps family bought like the entire block of houses and put fences all around, so they have like a communal backyard. But it's not a prison. There's no barbed wire. You know what I mean? But you know, still they're young. They may not be able to fend for themselves necessarily. So you know, they might have felt like they couldn't come and go, or certainly if they left, they wouldn't be able to come back. I wonder, was there a long period where they thought this is all BS? The first chance we get, we're going to make a run for it. You know?
I'm sure. They're putting a brave face, a lot of them, especially when they're on the cameras.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, you saw the results. So many of them are left, and a lot of them are just fighting. Standing their ground, so to speak. The ones who are remaining. I mean, I'm sure a lot of them would be just happy just to live a normal life, but some of them are exhibitionists. They love what they do.
Yeah.
They get so much publicity for it.
But that still kills me about the greetings. I remember that's been a long time. There were a lot of Muslim YouTubers back in the day who would say to all my brothers and sisters in Islam, salam alaikum, and then they would say, and then to everyone else, hello. I mean, is this? And I thought at first, is that a rule or is this a strategy? Like someone out there's like, aw, long greeting.
No.
But long greeting. Well, let me give you some advice.
But we're Islamophobes and we're bigots, right? But they won't even say hello to us like they say to everybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, not that we want to, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think, hey, these people are good enough for this greeting, but these people, no, they only get this greeting.
Yeah,
what are you?
But they do think that we think that way. You know what I mean? I was reading the Quran again, and it's saying not only the disbelievers bad, but they can't be trusted. Don't associate with them, or they want to lead you astray. And it even said at one point, they know that they are going to hell. They know that this is the true religion, but they won't convert, and they want to drag you down with them. Now that is the most over-the-top accusation of all time. You know what I mean?
Are you eating peanut butter right now?
No, sorry. Anyway, that's the most over-the-top accusation of all. It's like, I could go to eternal punishment. You know, I could have, you know, the hurries and the paradise and the feasting, like, you know, like, and then I'll turn that down, because what I'd really like to do is I'd really like to see someone dragged down from that and suffer, even if I have to suffer too. Nobody is that cruel, and even if someone was that cruel, like billions of Christians and Muslims who savor the thought of, you know, even if someone was cruel enough, like billions of people are, to enjoy the thought of suffering, they don't relish the thought of suffering right next to them. So the idea that we know, oh, you deep down, you know that we're right, and you just rather, I mean, that is such, there's been such a paranoia ingrained with you. I mean, if you were left alone on an island with just the Quran and you just kept reading it, it would drive you insane. You would be sitting there with your knees hugged to your chest and dark circles up around your eyes, rocking back and forth saying, the unbelievers, theirs is the fire, Allah is great, He will punish them. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And you're just sitting there reading this book, and you know how, in women's self-defense classes, they have the guy put on the suit, and then all the women in the class take turns stabbing him with their keys or kicking him in the nuts? That's what it's like to read the Quran if you don't believe the religion. It's just constantly, you're a bad person, you're awful, you're filth, you're disgusting, you're horrible, you're just out to get us, these are your evil intentions. How can they not, you know, emerge from a religious culture based on that without thinking that we're out to get them? That we, you know, but then it reminds me. Sorry, I know I'm doing my classic linking of diet. You know, just deal with it. I'm going to do it anyway. It reminds me of I just saw The Hobbit recently, and you know, they're going down, and they've got the dwarves and the elves, and they say, oh well, you know, the elves are enemies and blah blah blah. They hate us. And Gandalf says to him, the only malice here is that which you bring yourself, right? And it's a cheesy comparison or metaphor or what have you, but that you know, paranoid dwarf prince thinking the elves must hate him as much as he hates them. That's just the attitude. That's the attitude. Well, we hate them, so they must hate us, and because we've rationalized that they're evil and we're good, they must hate us even more and for less you know, qualified reasons. It's ridiculous. How do you? And that's the problem. How do you reach people? How do you reach people who think that you're trying to drag them down into an inky abyss of eternal suffering?
By the way, back to the topic of respect for a second. The Quran is one of the most disrespectful books that I've ever read when it comes to non-believers in general. I mean, he calls us, you know, they're like donkeys, they carry knowledge they do not understand, they're like beasts but even more lost. Yeah. I mean, and then they turn around and for some reason we have to respect Islam.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that to me is the whole conversation in a nutshell. You sit there and call somebody names, and then as soon as they say something not you know, mild, you turn around and you say, "Oh, you're disrespectful. You're disrespectful, you donkey that carries knowledge but doesn't understand it. Yeah. You're being disrespectful." Yeah, so. I'm
actually kind of surprised I haven't had much more hatred done towards me, because I've done some really fucked up things on YouTube regarding Islam. I did a series of videos called Ex-Muslim Cooking with Pork. I've only got one video left now. The other three are gone, unfortunately. They were on my old channel, which got flagged, and it was flagged for a totally different reason, nothing to do with Islam. It was to do with football, because I was making fun of an opposition team, and the opposition fans decided to flag my channel, but that's a different thing. The point is, I've done some crazy things. I've taken the piss out of Islam in my videos, but I don't get the sort of hatred like the girl who did draw the picture for Muhammad Day thing. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, what do I have to do to get some beef or pork?
Yeah. Yeah, it's ridiculous. And you know, the other thing is, Muhammad was saying, well, why do you guys bother? Why do you do this and so forth? And You know, I wanted Ali to monopolize that time. As a matter of fact, we had our an old friend of ours poking me, saying, "Let Ali talk, let Ali talk." And then I looked up, and Ali had just left in disgust. But I knew he seemed more interested in Ali, and I knew Ali had sort of a personal investment in that issue. But the thing is, I completely lost my train of thought now. Oh yeah, he was saying. No, I've lost it. It's gone. Zamario, people are asking you what your YouTube channel is. Go ahead and say it so it's on.
It's Zamario Able. I've written it down. It's spelled Z-A-M-A-R-I-O-A-B-L-E. Zamario Able.
Okay.
By the way, even though I'm an ex-Muslim, I don't make like videos going on a crusade about being an atheist and taking the piss out of Islam. You know, all about inspiration. My videos tend to be about stuff I am interested in, a little bit about religion and taking the piss out of Islam and other religions, a little bit about wrestling because I'm a wrestling fan, and even stuff about football because I'm a football fan. It's just all about my interests.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
No, I was kidding before I actually did what I was going to say. It was that he was asking why do we bother, and I thought, you know, this is another common attitude that you encounter, is that you're some kind of a meddler or a busybody at best if you talk about a religion that you don't practice, and we get this from people of all faiths that we interface with. But it's amazing that they don't realize that this is not like, okay, if Zamario has a friend who's or a brother, let's just say, not Brian, but just as an example, he has a brother and he's a drug addict and he's in and out of jail, and I'm not going to be like, hey Zamario, here's what I think about it. It's his private business. But that's the way I think a lot of believers, because they're so defensive about it, that's the way they feel, and they just don't realize the multitude of ways that sooner or later their religious culture is going to affect people worldwide. You know.
Right. I mean, so go back. I think Zamario asked me, or maybe the last caller, how long I had been back to Egypt for, and one of the reasons that it's been so long is that I fear that maybe even somebody in my own family will kill me over there because of my apostasy. And so, you know, I would like to go back. I would like to see my grandmother before she dies. You know, it would be nice. But, you know, it's really difficult when you're getting death threats constantly, and you don't even know whether or not somebody in your family will be crazy enough to, you know, stab you or whatever. And so, and the reason they would do that is because it says you should kill the apostate in Islam. And so, what do you mean I shouldn't be talking about Islam? Even, you know, the question itself is asinine, especially when somebody from on the people that you're asking, by his own admission, should be killed according to Islam.
Yeah. But why can't you mind your own business?
Yeah, what the, you know, like, hey, I think you should be killed, but why are you talking about it? Like, oh, wait, what? That's precisely the position that we find ourselves in.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
I actually have not experienced any sort of like death threats. I mean, I experienced a lot of pissed off people. That's different. Not death threats.
They're coming. They're in the mail. Oh, maybe not. Okay, well, thank you for your call, Zamario.
Yeah. Sorry, I stayed longer than I should have. Sorry about that.
It's fine.
Thanks very much for having me. It's been enjoyable. Take care. Have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Well, so, another terrific show. It was awesome. One of our better ones, in some ways, and not others. Okay, everyone. Bad news. Blog TV has been bought out by another site. We do not have current plans to continue the show on the new owners. Okay, they're going to merge your accounts. I don't know if the Jinn and Tonic Show will come back, or who will be in charge, or what it will be like. Okay. But I'll put up a notice on the YouTube that it is on an indefinite hiatus. I've been doing the show long enough that Blog TV is like this horse that's been shot out from under me. You know, I mean, I've been doing it longer than the site that it's on is going to be around. I've been doing it well over a year. I'm a little tired of it. it is fun in some ways, but I think I'm going to move on to other projects. So I don't know if I'll be back, even if the show does come back. I'm sure that well, we'll see what happens. Only Allah knows the future, and yet it continually
I was waiting for this. I was just waiting for this. Can I shoot you now?
Yeah. Okay.
But
So
actually, you disappointed me. I thought you were going to say Inshallah.
Yeah. No, I didn't. I should have done that. Okay.
Then I would have really shot you.
Yeah. Shot me like a Kabul hotel clerk. Anyway. Stop spamming. Last word for the last show.
I think there's a definite need, demand, place for a show, now let me not say a show. I think it's more of a platform that delivers information for those who want information and for those who are willing to exchange their views, opinions, and have a reasonable discussion, a civilized discussion on the topic of Islam, because it's exactly as Ali said, it belongs to everybody. Islam is part of the world. It is part of the world's population. I mean, it's only 20%, but still, it's a large group. And I think it deserves not respect, but it deserves attention. And I think that is something that we provided, that we gave a lot of information to people, because Islam is complex and there's a whole lot of idiocy around where people are making claims that are totally unfounded. So I think it's a great idea.
Ali.
Well, I'm just going to say that I enjoyed being on the show immensely, and thank you guys for having me. So, and I will second everything Stop Spamming said. The information does need to be out there in a way that is not, let's say, mainly based on some sort of bigotry. And it's really nice to have a channel like that where it's not just a bunch of, hillbillies or neo-Nazis talking about killing the brown people, and instead of focusing on a good, reasoned academic critique of Islam and its doctrines and the behavior of its followers. So, I think that it will be missed, and if anybody else decides to take this up, it would be a good public service. And yeah, so appreciate all the hard work that Atheismo's put into this thing. And yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, in the entirety of the show has been going, I think I've missed 2 episodes. One I let Stop host, and the other was canceled. So yeah, it's been a while. I really, when I first started, I did it with a lot of enthusiasm, and it was really interesting to read about the history of the culture that was largely a blind spot for me. I like a lot of people, I'd focused a lot on East Asian and Western European history, and neglected Central and South and Southwestern Asian history. So it was really interesting. A lot of the times I'd have to drag myself out and say, oh, I don't want to do this. And then once I got started, it would actually be very engaging. So I genuinely had fun. But it reminds me of this movie. I watched Clear and Present Danger again just a day or so ago, and it's about the drug wars and so forth, and they're sparring with these the drug barons who have private armies and so forth. And I feel like a drug czar who stayed very busy during my appointed term, but didn't really make an impact. And I think that in shows like these, they fall into the trap of preaching to the choir, and that goes for a lot of skeptical fare. And the difference between, that's one of the many differences between us and the religious, is we consider that to be a bad thing. You know what I mean? They don't. People like Ray Comfort or people at the IRA, they don't see any problem with it. They don't see any problem with it that they have something that preaches to their own supporters. And whatever outreach element is allegedly there is really farcical. You know what I mean? It's just window dressing. They really don't care if they engage. It's always, here's 5 silver bullet questions for atheists that they cannot answer, and so forth. But I think that despite the fact that I sincerely wanted to hear opposing point of views, and sincerely wanted them to hear ours. I can't really. Maybe just because it was such a small venue, but I don't know. Who did we really reach? Who did we really change? Did we even plant the seeds for change? I wonder. You know what I mean? Was anyone on the other side hearing in the first place and listening in the second? I don't know. You know, when you had. You know, what really took the wind out of my sails as far as enthusiasm for doing this was that the Krauss debate, and listening to that audience, albeit IERA supporters, so you know you're scraping the bottom of the barrel, but still, just hooting and jeering and hollering, not caring whether what they were hearing was good or silliness, not caring whether it was true or false. You know, is there really anyone listening? And on the other hand, I think that all over the Muslim world, there are atheists who just have already figured it out. They were just a little bit more clever, but they don't dare say anything. You know, it has to be. It has to be. You know, if you have people in closed compounds, like, you know, some of these cults we have in the States, and even people there, born and raised, completely surrounded, eventually figure out that what they're being told is wrong, I'm sure that the Muslim world is just porous enough to let ideas in from the outside to confirm that, yes, you know, what we're being told is wrong. It's part of this cultural team spirit.
Yeah, there's a lot of lip service being paid. I mean, we had Muslims coming to us and saying, well, why don't you not give me the money for washing your car, but give me a couple of beers? And this is highly legal, but they do it anyway. This is the human factor.
Yeah, and like I said, I just wonder sometimes if, you know, like the guest we have today. Forget about the hostility. Forget about issues of respect. What troubles me is when we say, well, you know, why do you think that? And he says, well, the Quran says that the Quran says that the Quran says that the Quran says, and it's turtles all the way down. You know what I mean? How do you reach somebody like that?
And if you don't respect me, I'm going to insult you and I'm going to kill you.
No,
and I think everybody who says that Islam is violent should be killed.
No, not the emotional reaction. Not the emotional reaction. Lots of people get defensive. Lots of people get into arguments over silly shit and want to punch the other guy in the face. Okay? That's normal. I'm talking about someone who lacks basic thinking skills. You know?
So Atheismo, I mean, your point is well made, but I just want to make sure that you're not overlooking the value of the service of talking to atheists about Islam and giving them proper information about Islam.
But they don't value it.
There's enormous value in that. Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I would not be of the opinion that people who listen to this show who are atheists aren't getting new pieces of information out, aren't ruling out some of just the bigotry and stuff that we kind of debunk on this show sometimes. Right. And I think that there is enormous value in that. Yeah. So I don't think you should that should be overlooked or belittled in any way as speaking to the choir, because sometimes the choir needs information, and a lot of times sources of information that are available are not exactly very honest or at least as honest as this show has been, in my opinion, when talking about Islam, because there is a lot of nonsense and bigotry and hatred out there that has nothing to do with a reasonable explanation of Islam and its tenets and what's true and what's not and what's myth and what's and what's actually factual, what you can take into an argument with somebody that maybe you know or something. And so there is value in that, and I think that it's important enough for somebody to pursue.
Yeah, and it's also the effect of train the trainer, because it might not always be just us. It might be somebody in the audience who received some information which he can then pass on to others when he is being confronted with it, and who then knows that there is substantial information and substantiated information available to him, which he can then use. And those effects you can't fathom.
Yeah, but then even that, well, of course, I value, being informed, and I encourage other people to do so as well. I think that ultimately, Islam as a global phenomenon and ideology will ultimately lose out, regardless of whether its opponents are informed or not. And it's unfortunate that we want kind of a clean victory. We would like to come back. But we'd like to say, okay, we'll show that we're right, and we'll show our work. We'll show you where, you know, and then we'll also show you meticulously where you're wrong. And then they respond with rhetoric. But as anyone who debates religion knows, being right doesn't matter. You know what I mean? It's like we keep hitting these holes in one, and then we look at the scoreboard, and it doesn't reflect. You know what I mean? Or that's a terrible analogy because points go down.
It's like that game I won, right?
Well, yeah, we keep hitting the field goals or whatever, and then we look at the scoreboard, and our number just doesn't go up because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you get it. It's like.
Have you ever watched Big Daddy, the Adam Sandler movie?
No, I don't think so.
Oh no, with the little kid that he takes in, and they're playing cards, and he goes, what, and he says, "I win, no matter what cards he gets." Yeah, and hey, this sounds like one of your stories.
Yeah.
And so the guys, the adults that are playing with the kids say, "Hey, how do you win? This is the card you have." He goes, "Because I win." He goes, "Well, what's the name of this game anyways?" He goes, "I win." And so, you know, that's pretty much what's happening here. It doesn't really matter what you get or what you win or what points you make. The name of the game is they win. It doesn't really matter what happens in between.
And that's the thing, is that applies to many of their other opponents as well, and that's ultimately why I think that they will lose out in the long run, is because you have opponents to Islam who are often just as emotional in their reasoning about it, and they've developed such an allergy to the aggressive nature that they likewise don't care about the arguments. They just hear Islam, and it's like nails across a chalkboard, you know, to their ear. You know what I mean? And that's what it will really come down to. You know what I mean? It will not be won by the people who make the more persuasive case. It'll just be bad behavior on the part of prominent believers or you know, dysfunction society-wide. Or, you know, I've probably used this story before, but it comes down to this. There's that scene in the movie Spaceballs where there's in the diner, and I don't know if how many of you have seen that, and he's like, "Well, would you like to have the soup or the special?" And they say, "Well, what's the special?" And he points over and says, "That guy over there is having the special." And then the guy keels over and dies in this horrific fashion. And they say, "We'll have the soup." Right? Now, maybe it wasn't the special that caused the guy to die, and it was just a coincidence. But let's face it, they're going to play it safe. And I think that the majority of people worldwide who aren't, you know, part of the Ummah already, they're going to look at, you know, Egypt and Syria and some or Afghanistan, or they'll look at, you know, the constant friction between you know Muslim and non-Muslim communities where either a minority or a majority, and they'll just say, "Wow, if that's the special, we'll have the soup," you know. And their reasoning isn't necessarily sound or you know, airtight logic, but that it's not entirely unreasonable either, you know. So I think that, you know, while within this group of people who have the IERA mindset, they'll keep saying, you know, okay, we win, like the game that Ollie was talking. We win. We chalk up everything as a victory ourselves. But in the eyes of everyone else, they're just going to, you know, they're just going to keep repulsing people with that noxious behavior. Like, you know, that debate, the only thing people are going to remember about that debate is the fiasco over the seating. And that they gave their word that there would be no segregation, and then there was. And then in London, in a school in London, okay, this civilization that has laid the foundation for the English-speaking world and its legal and educational traditions, okay, in that place, in the 21st century, we had a glimpse of what, just a glimpse of what an Islamic state or Sharia-based society would be like, and nobody liked it. You know? So, you know, that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to become, there will be more and more friction, but people become more and more allergic to it, and until it's just such a stench in the nostril of unbelievers. And it's unfortunate that, you know, a lot of the unbelievers who argue against Islam will go to a Robert Spencer or Pamela Geller website and then spew equal parts urban legends as they would factual information, but
that's precisely why I thought that this show was a good service. That it wasn't that. It wasn't Robert Spencer. It wasn't Watching Islam or whatever the other organizations are. But it still gave people the true, even though it is horrific, picture of Islam without a lot of the just pure, bigotry or inaccuracies or all these other things. So, I mean, this show is definitely, in my opinion, anyways, the thing to watch. On YouTube, there are a few people who do Islam stuff, but for the most part, it's just a bunch of bigots talking smack, whether they're Christians or Pat Condell or any of these other bigots. So. I don't think that your pessimism about this show and how it's I guess what it has produced is warranted in that way.
Well, no, I stand by the quality of the show. I'm proud of most. I mean, I've stepped over lines in terms of sarcasm or foul humor, even on this episode, from time to time. Overall, I stand by our track record of dedication to civility and accuracy of information. But I'm just saying that it really comes down to we just didn't reach a very wide audience. It's not, but the thing is, most people on both sides of the debate aren't really interested. You know what I mean? We've seen firsthand, in almost a gruesome fashion with the guest earlier, that that many of the believers are just covering their ears, and many of the either unbelievers or believers of rival faiths, they too aren't interested in the nuances. They don't care about educating. They just hear they've developed such an allergy. Even if they're not bigots. I mean, but there are a lot of people who just they'll say, oh, ours is a religion of peace, and they'll say, oh, sure it is, pat on the head, but no, thank you. You can keep your invitation and your so-called advice. Not many people are really just interested in some of the lore. Okay. Well, that does it. It's over. The sky is rolling up like a scroll all around us.
No, it's a break.
Thank you everyone who supported us, and we'll keep the video archive up until the end of days, so that people can come along and witness this. Take care. Salam.
Cheers.